Son Pokémon. Bueno, ¿qué tal amigos de Latinoamérica? Y bienvenidos al resumen del día 2 del Pokémon TC Online. Bueno pues, perdón, del mundial de Pokémon World Championship que dio batacazos, sorpresas. La verdad la transmisión duró 10 horas. Claro, le pedimos disculpas porque no le podemos llevar a la transmisión de directo ya que estoy trabajando en administración tributaria. Bueno, la sorpresa del día fue que el noruego Doug Kiwi de manera increíble cayó derrotado, pero eso lo vamos a ver más adelante. Atención que hubo presencia femenina por primera vez. Y quedará demostrado en este directo que ya empieza a rodar. Bueno, fue difícil al final donde fue un resultado prácticamente inesperado.
End up being that level of deck.
Vamos a tener las señales.
So we're going to find that out as we go through the weekend, but we can't keep talking about this, Joe, because the players are ready. So who have we got in the first round? I mean, obviously we got Henry Brand, defending world champion. Had to happen.
Yeah, he's been defending it for a long old time, of course, winning back in 2019, and this is the first opportunity for him to be dethroned. He is going to be playing Origin Form Palkia V-Star. We've heard him a couple days ago. He was running around frantically trying to find some really interesting cards. He was looking for some Thievals and Nickets, but I think he's back down on that one. I think he was trying to create a rogue archetype, but instead he's going for Old Faithful Origin Form Palkia V-Star. And against him we have Wei Peng Tan, and he's also going to be playing a variant of Origin Form Palkia V-Star, but this time adding in that Ice Rider Calyrex.
Yes. So we've got lots of Palkia here. We've got a pure Palkia and a Palkia Ice Rider, and it looks like we are off with day 2 of the Pokémon Trading Card Game World Championships, and our defending champion, Henry Brand, does look like he's going to be taking the first turn here.
A Sobble to kick things off. Also, Water Energy, I don't know if he has any other actions. I can't see any ball search for basics. Looks like he's going to try and thin his deck with an Evolution Incense here. Obviously not usable on that first turn. You cannot evolve, but he's just going to look through his prize cards, of course. Always important to take the time to do so. And I'm not sure if he has any actions beyond this, unfortunately. I didn't see any way to get a Origin Form Palkia V down.
No, I think there's a capacious bucket which could be played, but it's not going to do you much good. I mean, I suppose the theory here essentially is you're fairly sure your opponent isn't playing any hand disruption, and looking at Wayne's deck, we've literally just got one Rock Sand, which you can't play at this stage of the game anyway. So if you search it out now, you've got it ready for next turn, and then there's one fewer card you don't want to draw, which slightly increases the chance that you're going to draw those cards you do want to draw. It's very small margins, but these are the kind of things that make the difference. You don't want to do this, but sometimes you kind of got to.
Yeah, Henry really is taking his time here. He actually is playing, I believe, a gold copy of Path of the Peak as well in his own deck list. So that's something that you could get online as well with that code. But is just going to grab a Drizzile for the following turn. The good news is he's up against an archetype that can't really pressurize this Sobble on the first turn of the game, so he should be in the clear here with just a Sobble and pass.
It's not a good start, but it's not a terrifying start. You'll be all right. I mean, Wayne here, we're starting off with an Irida, and I think we're going to see probably what we've seen quite a lot here. We're probably going to see a Battle VIP pass, you would imagine, to go and get those basics out. I think we've already gone and spotted a Manaphy. Of course, we know in these decks that Radiant Greninja puts so much pressure on your bench that getting that Manaphy, it's not crucial this turn. There will not be a Radiant Greninja for Henry next turn. But it's one of those things you want to establish while you've got the opportunity.
Irida is the dream. You can grab a water Pokemon from your deck, as well as any item card, and this is so essential for the Palkia V-Star archetype, where you are trying to fill your board up with as many Pokemon as possible. I think in mirror match situations it can get a little bit more interesting, where you try and do as much damage as possible to the opponent while staying out of range of their own damage. So we might see a little bit of interesting tricks up both players' sleeves here to stay out of range of opposing subspace swell attacks. But when your opponent has a slow start with Sobble, you really do want to capitalize on that and get as many Pokemon onto the field as possible. If they already have access to a turn 2 Drizzile, it could easily just be an additional basic alongside this Battle VIP pass.
Yeah, there we go. So we've got yourself the Palkia and then the Battle VIP pass, which is going to be coming down. 2 more basics. You've got to imagine there's going to be at least 1 more Sobble. Does look like we're going for the Ice Rider Calyrex V here, because of course Wayne is playing both of these attackers in the deck, and that does give you options. An Ice Rider can actually get that 1-hit KO onto Palkia with a choice belt, which can be important.
Yeah, it's much less worried about how wide the opponent goes. You can't play around Ice Rider's damage. It's just there. It can just hit that 250 so easily, and it's a real threat for that turn 2. There's going to be more Origin Form Palkias, which is an interesting one. Oftentimes you see the Radiant Greninja get into the mix as quickly as possible. I wonder what Wayne's strategy is here. Could be looking to keep calling to fill the remainder of his bench up to possibly end his turn.
That absolutely is an option. At the moment we got attackers, but we don't have those support Pokemon. We're expecting Sobble, Radiant Greninja, and it looks like we've actually got 3 attackers and 2 Sobble out. So. And I like the energy onto the Ice Rider, because next turn that means evolution, attach, and then you can just start KOing straight away. So I do like that. I do worry a little bit. We've got 2 Sobble, no Radiant Greninja, but that's going to be enough for a couple of turns at least.
Yeah, I always like threatening that Radiant Greninja, and could have drawn a couple additional cards knowing that you like to use that Star Portal as quickly as possible. But keeping the option available for later on in the game is always interesting, and again makes Henry play slightly differently, who's agonizing over 1 shady deal here.
Yeah, and that is it. You've got defending world champion, round 1 on stream, full of confidence. This is not the way you want to start the game. It does look like Henry's going for an Irida here, or yeah, we do see an Irida which is going to grab a level ball and a Pokemon. The problem is this is not the same as it is on turn 1, where you get that Battle VIP pass. It basically means you're getting 2 Pokemon rather than 3. That's a big difference.
Yeah, it's a one-time deal, the Battle VIP pass. The effect is so powerful on that first turn of the game, but it does have the massive drawback, unfortunately. Henry is only playing 1 copy of that Battle VIP pass, so it's much more likely to achieve it via an Irida when you're the player going second. So it's not something he is completely reliant on, but is no longer able to access that card. Is going to simply level ball for a backup Sobble, and I don't think he's got anything else to do here. Maybe a keep calling play here. No, simply passing and protecting his Drizzile for the following turn, and it's down to Wayne to see if we can have aggressive sparks flying here with a KO on the 1 Palkia in play for Henry.
We've already got the Ice Rider Calyrex V Max. There's an energy in hand, so Wayne's got the attack if there's some kind of pivoting option, but we do see a Drizzile there going up, could grab a scoop up net, which will allow you to both pivot out of the active and then evolve the bent Sobble to get a second Shady Dealings. That does look like what Wayne's going for here, and it's a play we've seen a million times before. It's not a huge surprise, and we are going to see that early pressure from the Ice Rider Calyrex, and I kind of like this because it's a very good attacker. You don't need to discard the energy to get small KOs, and you can just sit there and start rocking from turn 1. And we do see Boss's orders, so we might see a bigger KO here.
I mean, yeah, and Henry knows.
Oh no, that was quick.
Henry not wasting any time. He knows that he is very behind. I really like swallowing your pride when you are behind in a game like this, because Henry wants to give himself maximum opportunity to win 2 games. He has the advantage in the second game. He gets to choose to begin at the very least, and his start was far from ideal. The Ice Rider Calyrex has a huge amount of hit points. Henry, although he had the option to do a ton of shady deals, wouldn't really have been able to launch anything meaningful in terms of an attack. I believe he doesn't even play the right hand, so there was no option to even attack with an Inteleon, for example, that turn. So he had really nothing going for him. That payment of retreat may be costing him that little bit, because I think you have to assume when you only put one Origin Form Palkia down, the opponent will always look to chase it. But potentially Henry was just saying that if he had access to Inteleon, simply dealing would have been enough. But kind of taking that hedge that you can avoid a boss's orders for a turn with a low hand size, but Wayne had exactly the pieces he required.
Yeah, unfortunately sometimes, and I do kind of like this, because yes, Day 2 is a different tournament, but you still need a very, very good record to make it up to the top cut of the tournament. You don't want to be taking a round one tie, and that's what happens when you end up, you know, taking a slow loss game 1, then you fight back game 2, and then time runs out and boom, you've got a tie.
Right.
We still got 43 minutes left, and we're going into game 2. This is basically Henry's way of saying, I'm confident about this matchup, because if you're not confident, you don't mind losing a long game 1 and going for the draw. Scooping that quickly, conceding that quickly, you're going for the win.
Yeah, and wins are obviously far more valuable. The amount of match points required to make it into that top 8 record is huge. Some really awkward prize cards going on.
2 Sobble and 2 Quick Ball for Henry. That is going to hurt the early turn.
He's just drawn one off the top, which I think is saving his otherwise awful hand.
Oh, he started Zigzagoon.
Yeah. Finally does get that Quick Ball though, so can at least get one Pokemon down, but it looks like if he is going for a Palkia, he's not going to have any accompanying Sobble.
No, that is very bad. That's such a harsh decision. You can either go for a Sobble, but then we're in the position we were in game 1 where you've got no attackers,
right,
or you go for the Palkia, but then you are really putting yourself in an awkward position in terms of, do you actually have any draw next turn, or are you basically in top deck mode?
Looks like it's a Nessa hitting the discard pile with this Quick Ball. No real easy choice there either. And Henry's again going to fan out his deck, have a look at what is prized. I don't think he's going to be too happy about the outcome, but he at least does play Hisuian Heavy Ball to maybe cherry pick one of those Sobble later. Not something that he can do right now, but it looks like he's just sat on such an awkward hand that he is thinking really hard about this Origin Form Palkia versus Sobble.
You see him flicking him at the front of the deck there.
I mean, tempo's a thing, but you put yourself immediately into top deck mode, which is a horrible feeling to have in the pit of your stomach when you've already just dropped a game.
It's not ideal, and let's be clear, like, when you're a player of Henry's caliber, this isn't like a deck that Henry's just picked up and thought, Palkia's good, anyone can play that. This is a list that will have been tested and tested and tested and won game after game and set up consistently game after game. Oh,
he doesn't know. Yeah, he's going to go for the Sobble. He had the lucky dip approach of the Radiant Greninja, which was option number 3 coming to his head.
I noticed that.
Yeah, but he is going to opt for Sobble. It means he's going to have really poor tempo at his disposal. Even if you do attach an energy to that Sobble, it's not going to be attacking for a while. But he just has nothing else going for him, unfortunately.
No, there's a Palkia V-Star, there's an Evolution Incense, there's an Energy.
Even playing this Water Energy means that it ruins top decks for Radiant Greninja in future, so he's going to have it as a pivot option potentially, but it doesn't feel great.
It really doesn't feel great at all, and Wayne's in a very similar position to game 1. If he can just be setting up preferably the Ice Rider here, that would be, oh, we do see an Energy on the Sobble, so Wayne's not got much going on. It might just be a keep calling, you know. Yeah, it is.
It's a big break for Henry, where Wayne is unable to get any of his 2 prize basic Pokemon into play. Wayne is once again going to take a beat to check his own prize cards here, whilst also getting the Rapid Strike Sobbles out of the deck. Keep calling is a big reason why this Inteleon engine is so preferred, because even when you have an awful start like this, all you require is an energy card to still be in the game and still getting your engine going.
Yeah, it's always a nice option. And I do like with the Ice Rider that you're not relying on your opponent having a big bench in order to get the KOs. We saw that in game 1. So you can keep calling, of course. Keep calling will only get you your Rapid Strike Pokemon, so they're really good for Sobble. Right. They're not so good for your attackers. Your Palkia, your Ice Rider, unfortunately, they're not going to be got here. So both players getting Sobble, but not actually, unfortunately, being able to get any attackers. And that is, it's not a great board from either of them right now.
A huge sigh of relief for Henry, who went the safer route, I guess you could say, by grabbing an option 2 Drizzle and still be in the game the following turn. So is still fighting on here and will be effectively still going first. And looks like the top deck wasn't ideal for him, so it will be a shady deal. I imagine again Irida is going to be the play, so he can try and get some additional basics down. It's usually going to be the go-to here, so that he can start finally threatening some Origin Form Palkia Vs.
Yeah, you need to get those Palkia out as soon as you can. I mean, Henry is very much on the back foot here. Needs to try and force a game 3. That concession in game 1 was a big deal. Gave enough time to actually, you know, win 2 games. But the problem with that is you've actually got to go and win those 2 games. So we've got the shady dealing for the Irida here, and we're probably going to see a very similar thing to what we saw turn 2 from Henry last game. Or are we?
Yeah, looking at a Capacious Bucket as well as a Palkia. I think also Palkia Hisuian Heavy is another great choice here.
Yeah.
Have another Sobble for the following turn. Both very reasonable choices here. The level ball I kind of like the least because it takes your last Sobble out of the deck, rather than, you know, just grabbing the Hisuian. They're both kind of freebies, but regardless, getting a Sobble down is still going to enable him to once again unlock his hand next turn.
It absolutely is, but there's no energy. You talked about putting the energy on the Galarian Zigzagoon last turn. Because he's got Palkia, Origin Form Palkia V-Star in hand.
Yeah.
So if he had attached last turn, but then there isn't a second energy for this turn, so I suppose it's all a moot point in the end. Those attackers just aren't coming out.
No, but I think the good news is next turn he can once again Irida, and then he finally goes for Radiant Greninja plus Capacious Bucket, and then he can start getting some into the discard pile. He can pay retreat, get rid of another one, and he's likely launching a Subspace Swell on the next turn. Wayne here has his first shady deal, and again is going to have a think. It's down to him now to try and get multiple 2-prize Pokemon into play, because that now the shoe's on the other foot. Henry's the one threatening potential dust on the next turn.
Yep, absolutely. And the fact of the matter is that, sure, you need to have bench Pokemon to really activate Palkia's damage, but you know what? When you've got a 60 HP Sobble in the active, you don't need to do that much damage at all. So Henry is starting to threaten KOs, and I think you're right. It's going to be that V-Star power to get the energy on. It's not really what you want to do, but it's certainly not the end of the world. If it gets you that energy, if it gets you those early attacks and puts you ahead in the game with KOs, you would rather save it for a lovely tech attack with your Radiant Greninja.
Sure.
But you know what? If you got to do it, you got to do it.
We are going to see an Irida here. I think because there's already a Water Energy established on the Sobble, I'd like to see some more Drizzle dancing going on, so that you have the threat of an Inteleon potentially, even if this Sobble is knocked out. But regardless, we're going to see the quick ball grabbed. As we said, it's really important to get not 1, but 2, ideally, 2-prize Pokemon established here, so you can be threatening that much higher damage output threshold.
Yeah, and we do not want to repeat for Wayne what happened to Henry last game, which is, hey, I've got an attacker. Oh, wait, no, I don't. False alarm. You've just KO'd it, and then you end up conceding the game because actually you need some attackers at some point to win. So we do have a Capacious Bucket coming out here. We've got 1 Ice Rider Calyrex V on the bench, which is lovely. And it looks like, yeah, we actually saw the Capacious Bucket to grab the energy, so that one of those energy could be used as fodder for the quick ball, and then obviously you can then bring it back with Palkia's V-Star power in the future. So nice little bit of sequencing on show there.
Yeah, great combination. You might also have to debate whether or not to put this Manaphy down as your final bench space, because there's always a threat of a Radiant Greninja coming down and taking 2 prize cards on 1 prize Pokemon. Even taking out something like the Drizzle and putting prep damage on the Ice Rider Calyrex can be a strong play as well for Henry.
Yeah, that absolutely could, of course. As much as I'm saying, you know, use a V-Star power to get the Palkia going, what you can actually do is use a V-Star power to get your Radiant Greninja, attach for turn, and save your Palkia until next turn, and just have that 2-prize turn. So that Manaphy is sneaky important. Whenever there's a Radiant Greninja, even if it's not on the board, if it's at all threatening, you've got to get that Manaphy.
Ooh, wow, and Wayne did not bench their Manaphy here. No bench protection around, so it does open more avenues for Henry now.
Do have to discard the energy to get there, though, so there's a few steps that Henry's going to have to go through. The play is potentially there, but there's a few steps before we actually make it.
There's potentially a lot of shady deals here, though. He could shady deal for Irida, you can grab Bucket Radiant Greninja, or you can grab the Inteleon as well as Irida. Sorry, you can grab the Irida and grab Shady Dealings Inteleon, which then enables you to find other avenues towards the Radiant Greninja and draw even more cards. So there's a lot of deals on offer here, and I think because there's no bench protection, the Radiant Greninja certainly seems like the strongest play available to Henry.
I think if you think you can confidently get all the parts, if you think you can get the energy in the discard, get the V-Star power off, then yes, I absolutely agree. I think being able to either take 2 prizes or take a prize while softening up one of those bigger 2-prize Pokemon, I love that play. And I think that's how Henry kind of gets back into it in game 2. So we do have an Irida coming down here.
Yeah, I'm almost certain Capacious Bucket is the item card. And it's either going to be the Shady Dealing Inteleon or it's going to be the Radiant Greninja. And possibly his one copy of Shady Dealing Inteleon in the prize cards. I remember having some awkward ones in there, but the Bucket is going to be played alongside this Radiant Greninja. And I think he can get there just by simply retreating the Zigzagoon using 1 concealed cards. And if he has to spend his turn attachment, he can to get the 3 going. It's not ideal. You'd prefer to store some energies elsewhere because it kind of commits you to Melanie later on. But I think if needs must, he can still make this play.
And Melanie is always an option, even if you don't really want to do it. The fact that Melanie's there is good. Because the thing is, I believe there's only Boss's Orders as Gusting in Henry's deck. Is there any cross-switcher in there?
Yeah, no cross-switchers.
So that means that having played the Irida, if you are going down a Palkia attacking route this turn, you've got to just KO the Sobble, and then Wayne is getting the first hit on a 2-prize Pokemon. So I think as soon as you play the Irida and you resign yourself to not having any Gusting, you've got to try and go for the Greninja play.
Yeah, we're going to see the retreat.
There we go.
And I think it's as good as it gets as long as you're not using that Boss's Orders, and his hand just certainly wasn't prepped for it. It's not the maximum value from the Star Portal, but it's going to be enough to still launch a very powerful attack and set up some strong damage onto the Ice Rider, which I think is certainly going to be his line here, because you can see the prize map already panning out, where there's going to be a 1 prize knocked out here, and then you are going to take a 3-prize knockout onto the Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX, or deny it from coming into play at all. And then you can also try and find your way of knocking out a Origin Form Palkia V or V-Star.
Yeah, that seems to be the way to get 6 prizes quite nicely here. So Henry has navigated this game too absolutely beautifully. Radiant Greninja is such a huge advantage. If you're able to play it and you're able to get the energy on like you are in a Palkia deck, it is such a huge advantage. And we do see a quick shooting Inteleon coming out here.
I like this a lot as well, because if you're going to already be doing prep damage onto the Ice Rider, you can also start pinging down the Palkia as well, or vice versa. He could just be going even more aggressive onto the Ice Rider. Oh, he's going to take the 2-prize route here, so he's attacking on both fronts. This means that Wayne, if he chooses to not evolve his Ice Rider, it doesn't really matter anymore, because you can sort of hold off that 3-prize turn for as long as possible, and then you get to the ultra late game and then you do evolve up. So now Henry is staying on the 2-2-2 prize map, but it's also going to pepper up that Ice Rider.
I kind of like that, because it's not just taking the 2 prizes, it's taking the options off the board.
Sure.
That Drizzle could have become an Inteleon, that Sobble could have become a Drizzle. So now, instead of potentially 4 Shady Dealings or 4 trainer cards, we've now got potentially 1.
Yeah.
That is a huge difference in terms of being able to get what you need to carry on the game. So there's still a potential, you know, that Sobble can just manually retreat. You only need an energy and an Ice Rider VMAX or a Palkia V-Star to get an attack this turn. There's going to be an attack, but it's still not the same kind of turn that you could have had before.
Yeah, and I really don't see many strong option for Wayne here. He's played the Melanie. There's no water energy currently in the discard pile. He can turn attach, pay retreat, and just take a 1-prize knockout. Doesn't feel great.
Really doesn't. That's not what you're looking for. I mean, I suppose getting Radiant Greninja off the board is quite nice, just to stop them drawing cards. And, you know, there is still, when there's 1 energy on there, their attachment for the turn Melanie does give another option for it. So I like getting rid of it. but I'm also well aware that it's just, when you've already given up 2 prizes and your ball's not looking great, it's not doing enough. It doesn't feel like it's doing enough anyway.
Here is the Evolution Incense. I imagine we're going to be seeing a Shady Deal here. Only plays 2 copies of Cross Switcher, doesn't have either of them in hand, so he's certainly going to be limited to attacking the active Pokemon here. And it's not something you really want to be doing in this position, but I don't see a way that you can simply pass here. You fall too far behind in the prize race, so it's not ideal, but it's got to be what Wayne still looks for this turn.
And if I'm Henry and my Radiant Greninja is still there at the end of this turn, then I'm looking to use Melanie and do what I kind of could have done last turn. Take out the Drizzle and get some prep damage on one of those bigger Pokemon. I think that would be an excellent play. So if I'm Henry, I would love it if my Radiant Greninja wasn't KO'd this turn.
Yeah, the Melanie limited to the Origin Form Palkia.
Of course it is. I said that yesterday as well, Joe.
It's that sneaky rule box on it.
It's that sneaky rule box. It gets me every time. But it's still something that you can attack with a Palkia this turn, and then, you know, save it, get a Radiant Greninja energy in the future. It's still an attack that can come out, but you're right. It would have to be 1 turn later.
And Wayne doesn't really know what to Shady Deal for here. I think he's evolving into the Drizzle mostly because he's holding an Inteleon in hand regardless, so he just wants to have more deals on the future turn. So he's just going to elect to grab an Ultra Ball here. Just again, maybe a play for a future turn, but we will likely see a retreat here and a response KO with the Origin Form Palkia V-Star here. He's kept a very limited bench. I think that's one of the most disciplined things he could do this turn.
And there is an opportunity here to just keep a nice small bench, and then your Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX becomes this huge HP monster that's hard to KO and can one-hit KO. And that is a big difference between these 2 Pokemon. Palkia cannot one-hit KO Ice Rider Calyrex. Ice Rider Calyrex can one-hit KO Palkia. It needs a choice belt, but it's not that difficult to actually pull off. So I like the Wayne's got that for the next couple of turns. And we saw, before he benched the Palkia, we saw the finger coming out, counting the damage here.
You good old 2 times table, it's essential here right now, because that is all parts of the subspace swell. It's a 2-way street. Both of them are using this attack. So as wide as they go to increase their own damage, it also helps their opponent. And I believe the Shady Dealing Inteleon was the grab from Henry's prize cards here, which really unlocks his turn.
Yeah, being able to grab any 2 trainer cards from your deck. It looks like we are going Capacious Bucket and a Melanie here, which I like very much indeed. Get some more energy on the board. Or it might be a quick ball and a Melanie instead. Either way, getting more energy on the board, building up backup attackers for the future is a really important thing to do. As it stands at the moment, there isn't much going on in terms of future attackers, but it looks like that's what we're going to be getting here. So we can Melanie onto the Palkia, then you can get an energy on there for your turn, and then we can start setting up for the future.
Yeah, Henry absolutely is needing to attack with his 2 prize Pokemon from here on out. He's already sacrificed that 1 prize Radiant Greninja, so you want to give as much bulk as possible for Wayne to get through from here on, as the Melanie is going to come and get 3 cards. And we're looking to see if there's even any fodder here. His hand is so strong that he doesn't have many good discards to get another Palkia down.
No, that is an awkward problem to have. My hand's so good I can't discard any of them. But you're right, because all Wayne actually needs to get a KO on this Palkia is energy, Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX choice belt. And bearing in mind, we're pretty sure there's going to be an Inteleon Shady Dealings coming. So Wayne has got a not too difficult route to get the KO next turn if he wants it. That means Henry has to have another Pokemon getting ready to come out and attack next turn.
And what does Henry value the least here? He's got one of his 2 boss's orders has had to hit the discard pile. It's not ideal at all, but I think the way he's mapped out his prize cards, it makes a lot of sense here. So it is going to have to be sacrificed in order to find a Palkia. I think in many ways he was hoping to find a way worse card from his 3 cards from Melanie, just for some easy decisions, but not coming. But still, he is able to find an Origin Form Palkia V. Is debating this Sobble in addition, again, giving you more damage with the subspace swell. He's also got quick shooting to deliberate over.
Yeah, I love that quick shooting. Just that free 2 damage counter on anywhere, anytime you like. It's quite important sometimes to get over the hump. You know, V-Maxes might give up an extra prize compared to V-Star, but they also have quite a lot more HP. You're looking at kind of around 340 rather than 280, and that could be a pretty big difference. So just pinging that little bit of damage can make a difference. Now, we do, Henry's just asking about hand size here. We do see the Sobble coming down, or is it coming down?
Yeah,
it is coming down.
So quick shooting onto the active position before announcing a subspace swell attack. So thanks to his own bench, that's 160 plus 60 from Wayne's bench Pokemon. So it's getting a good bit of prep here. I don't think it's ideal math alongside quick shooting, so I think Henry is looking to try and weave in a boss's orders on the next turn to try and make the math work out with multiple quick shooting over a few turns.
Yeah, I mean, all it's going to take is 2 quick shooting in order to actually get the KO here. And there is always a possibility of, if there's a Drizzile next turn, then you can double quick shooting one turn, where you quick shooting, then you scoop up net, and then you evolve a different Drizzile and get a second use of that same ability. It's only going to take 2 quick shootings to get the KO. But yeah, from now on, it's going to be gusting, because this is awkward for Wayne, because Wayne kind of wants to try and retreat and get a KO with Ice Rider Calyrex V Max, but you don't want to leave a Pokemon on the bench to be quick shooting over 2 turns.
Exactly.
So you kind of want to leave it in the active. If it's going to get KO'd, you might as well make your opponent use their attack.
Yeah, the alternative is to use some of his damage modifiers, eyeing up Leon and Choice Belt right now for exactly that purpose. Force Henry to push the Origin Form Palkia out the way and give him more work to do, whilst also taking a knockout. So I really like this idea of bringing the Choice Belt and Leon to the top, because this is going to be great ways for him to maintain a fairly low bench size for another couple turns. Try and make it as awkward for Henry, who, as you said, isn't playing a cross-switcher at all, so is very limited in the opportunities to actually use boss's orders.
And one of those 2 boss's orders has gone and hit the discard pile, so the gusting here is not going to be, it's not going to be easy for Henry at all. So Wayne has quite a lot of good stuff in his hand at this stage. There are decisions to be made. There's an Ultra Ball he's mulling over here, just deciding, you know, do you need another bench Pokemon? Do you want to try and evolve that, you know, one of his bench 2 prizes? But it looks like there's a Manaphy in hand.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty critical turn, because Wayne knows by taking this 2 prize knockout, he's then falling in range of potential Roxanne as well. So I think he's thinking the best way is to thin his hand, the best way is to have a robust board state here to not get disrupted.
Indeed, and if I'm Wayne, I'm thinking, well, I kind of want to put my Choice Belt down this turn so it's ready for the future. What if my opponent's got a way to get rid of it? What if they've got that field blower? Do I want to take that risk?
And eyeing up benching another Pokemon here, it would allow him to stash the Choice Belt on the bench and just manually play the Leon as the supporter for turn instead, where you get to keep those threats all over the place. So you can see why Wayne is thinking about this so much.
Yeah, it's an awkward decision, and you've got to be thinking about Roxanne nowadays. As soon as you go down to 3 or fewer prize cards remaining, you know you're in range of Roxanne, and that puts you at a 2-card hand. You don't want to be at a 2-card hand, not unless you've got something like a Genesect on board, like we saw from the Mew players. Mew players don't care about Roxanne unless it also comes with a path to the peak. But Palkia players do, because you've got to draw something like a Shady Dealings. Although, is that a... There's nothing actually ready to evolve in Shady Dealings next turn.
No, that's the worry. That's why Wayne is agonizing over a potential Ultra Ball here. Might end up having to just discard the Leon that he's just searched out. Instead is going to Melanie, trying to give himself some easier discards with his own Ultra Ball that he found with Shady Dealings a few turns earlier.
Yeah, I kind of like this. It's so weird when you're looking for bad cards, so you don't have to discard good cards. But sometimes that's the way we go. So we've got the Ultra Ball there. Gets rid of Ice Rider, you're not going to need that. Gets rid of Quick Ball, which you could use to get a Sobble if there's one still in deck.
Yeah, a bit of a strange one. I guess you want to get rid of more cards because you then don't want Quick Ball on a future turn. Is eyeing up a V-Max here. Is it because they've got too many prize Sobble right now?
Might be. I'm not seeing a Sobble as we go. Oh, here's a good look at the deck. Right, so we're having a look through. There's a Drizzile. There's a I don't think there's a Sobble left in deck. I think that's the reason.
An alternative reason is that he still hasn't used his V-Star power and wants to have that available on the next turn as best he can. So just evolving up into that Palkia, a pretty strong option. It gives, again, Henry a more difficult time of having multiple prizes turn next turn.
Yeah, and that's always a good thing you want to be trying to do. So we've got the Palkia, we've got the Choice Bout, we've got lots of bench Pokemon.
Not a KO, though.
Not a KO. As soon as you see them reaching for dice rather than discarding the Pokemon, you know it's not getting KO'd. We've got... Oh!
Yeah, we're just shy.
That's 270,
yeah.
Joe. That is so close.
And Wayne decided to do this because he opted to discard an Ice Rider V. So he was well aware that he was not quite reaching that KO. He does play his own copy of Quick Shooting Inteleon, I believe. So it's something he can look towards.
Yeah, there is one in there. One of the other options, which is a bit more roundabout, Henry's got a full bench with no mana fee. So you could get that energy onto Inteleon, maybe using a V-Star power, and that residual 20 damage from Inteleon's attack could then be the thing that takes out a Palkia. It's again, it's a bit of a round-the-houses way of doing things, but the point is, Wayne has got multiple different ways that extra 10 damage could be dealt.
For Henry, then, it's finally an opportunity to use this boss's orders. I think he's certainly going to do that. He's eyeing the Ice Rider straight away. And can he accompany this with anything else? The Puff of the Peak is also very strong here because Wayne is yet to use his own V-Star power. I'm just checking to see how many, I don't know why that dice is being rolled there, but we are going to see the Hisuian Heavy Ball for Henry. I think this is just mostly thinning for him. He still has a Sobble accessible, but his board is currently full. And with so many bench Pokemon around, it's going to be a huge amount of damage for Origin Form Palkia here.
And one of the things Henry's done beautifully here is by putting that 20 damage on from the quick shooting onto the benched Palkia this turn after a gusting, it means that it doesn't matter anymore. Next turn, that Palkia goes down to a quick shooting. Active bench doesn't matter. Henry is not going to have to attack into it, but what have we got here?
Did Henry opt to use the quick shooting? He did, right?
He did, yeah, yes,
okay.
he used it a minute ago. It's on the board.
Yeah, we're good. Okay. Huge chunk of damage coming into this Ice Rider.
And pass to the peak.
Yeah, that's huge as well because it's denying Wayne's options to use their own Star Portal here. Wayne is, I believe, clutching onto a Stadium card, but it's exactly what Henry wants to do. And he's, again, Henry's doing a really good job of staying out of Roxanne range himself.
Yeah, no, I love this. You're not really that worried about Roxanne yet. You've got a Palkia, which is just about to be KO'd. The thing is, Henry can win the game next turn. If Henry's able to get a KO on a Palkia V-Star, or indeed just the Ice Rider, which is heavily damaged, combined with that quick shooting, Henry's actually pretty much got game on board next turn. So Wayne needs to do quite a lot here. He needs to try and take out that Palkia. But honestly, I'm loving Henry's position here because Wayne's not winning the game this turn. And all Henry needs is to KO the Ice Rider and use quick shooting, and that's the game. But we know Henry's out of gusting.
Yeah.
So that Ice Rider can't be in the active.
No, it has to move out the way. And I think even something like attacking with Manaphy here is actually the strongest choice Wayne could go for. It gets just enough to do 20 damage. The Hisuian Heavy Ball, I don't know what's happening. Oh, shuffling some prize cards with the Hisuian Heavy. That makes sense. The Sobble is getting picked up. But yeah, I would love to see a Manaphy attack here, to be honest with you.
The Rain Splash to KO. 2 prize Origin Form Palkia V-Star. That would be amazing.
I think it's the smartest play, honestly, looking at the board state. And we know that 2 bosses' orders have been spent. And Wayne is likely going to look at the discard pile at some point, or is keeping track of it at least.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage in the game, you know that Palkia's not probably going to be playing 3 or 4. And you've got to think, if they were playing cross-switcher, you'd have seen one of them by now.
Yeah.
It's unusual that all 4 of them are staying hidden. And you don't play cross-switcher unless you're playing a 4-off. So that's information that you can use. So you don't know Henry's out of gusting, but from context and normal deck list, you can kind of figure it out. So we do see the retreat. Obviously, leaving that active would literally lose Wayne the game, and that would be a bad thing. So it looks like what we've got here is the Inteleon coming active,
right,
which means we've got to see the V-Star power in. Yeah, here we go, to actually get the energy on. Do we have any kind of gusting or escape rope? You don't really want to attack into the Palkia. You want to get it to the bench. This is what I was talking about last turn. Do 100 damage and KO it with the residual 20. That's what you want to do.
That would have been the dream scenario, but it's simply going to be an Aqua Bullet into the active. At least you get 20 damage onto the benched V-Star. It's slightly better than Rain Splash, I guess you could say, but really not by much. And you are threatening your own Inteleon here and had to spend your V-Star power. But now there's no energy on the benched Ice Rider because there's just so few that were rooting around the discard pile. That Palkia that's about to get KO'd by quick shooting is definitely going to lose all of its energy. So Wayne is locking himself into Melanieing for future turns, and that means no hand disruption going Henry's way.
Yeah, and if there's no hand disruption, you can let your opponent just run away with it. Speaking of hand disruption, here comes Roxanne.
Yep, Henry able to get himself 6 fresh cards, giving Wayne just 2 cards, and was able to develop that Sobble, but will only have 1 Shady Deal available, and that's if he's able to draw one with that low hand size. Henry is going to take at least 3 prizes this turn. Actually, he will be taking 3 prizes this turn because he'll certainly quick shooting and then finish off the active and put himself 1 attack away here. So let's see how else he can develop his board.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very useful. The quick shooting is going to be huge. That's why I loved so much seeing that boss's orders last turn, because it meant that there was no, whereas before Wayne was keeping Palkia in the active to force an attack, now it doesn't matter. You can put it in the active, but Henry's just going to quick shoot it and force you to bring up something else anyway, so it really is irrelevant at that stage. So all we've got here is we've got Henry with the Palkia. I mean, what would be ideal here is more gusting and KOing, but we know that's not an option. For the rest of the game, Henry is just attacking into what's active, and if Wayne knows this, then he can maybe try and tank a hit with Palkia. He can give up some single prize attackers and make Henry really work for this. Turn it into a free prize win rather than a 1 prize win, for instance. And a free turn win.
Yeah, Henry saved by his prize cards from that quick shooting, able to pick up Quick Ball. Now he can get his backup Palkia because the Roxanne didn't help him out. That's huge. So now even if his Origin Form Palkia is knocked out, he'll have a route to get 2 more energy on the following turn with a Melanie turn attach play. So really big hit from the prize cards for Henry there, who is now simply going to Training Court attach to the Origin Form Palkia V-Star. In the active, can announce a big subspace swell and take 1 additional prize card, going 1 away from tying up this series.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. Henry is really doing well in this second game, playing it perfectly, setting up these prizes. Really disadvantaged because of the lack of gusting, but absolutely navigating this beautifully. With gusting, this will be a very different situation. You can just KO that Ice Rider and that's it, game over. It's not the option here. Can Wayne survive a hit with this Origin Form Palkia? Because that would give him 2 extra turns to try and win, which could be huge, but does need to take 3 prizes to do so, which is... It really feels like Wayne is on the back foot here. You need a single prize KO and a 2 prize KO, and you really need to do it on consecutive turns.
Yeah, I didn't quite spy the entire hand. The Capacious Bucket is going to grab a couple of water energy. I know there was a choice belt in hand as well, so if that 3rd card isn't either a supporter or a way to Drizzle, I don't think there's a means of attacking here for Wayne, and I think Henry will just be running away with the series if that's the case.
I mean, if Wayne misses this attack, then I'm willing to bet it is very much all over, and we're going to be going.
Oh, it is a Drizzle.
Oh, well, that changes everything.
Can we Melanie here? That's going to be the big question.
There's definitely a Melanie in the deck. I saw it on the last search.
Okay, so as long as there's access to Melanie, there's going to be an attack launched here. I'm not sure if there's enough damage in play to get the knockout. We are going to see the Shady Deal here.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's got to be for the Melanie, because that's the... Oh, no!
It's going to be Roxanne, so doesn't have access, or that attack isn't enough damage to deal the finishing blow here. So we are going to see the Roxanne disrupt Henry down and try and make life awkward to finish off the game. It's a role reversal where the Roxanne is now going to be punishing Henry at last. And Wayne, although won't be launching an attack, is hoping to tank a hit himself and try and just be on the offensive on a future turn.
Yeah, but the thing is, with Henry's got that quick shooting, Henry's got a Palkia ready. It's if there's no KO going down here, Henry, even if he can't win the game, is going to be able to do a lot of damage this turn.
Right.
So that is going to be absolutely huge. And it looks like Wayne is just going to be passing. And remember, there's still 3 prizes to take. 1 KO is not going to be enough here.
Let's see if Henry can piece things together.
Don't know that Henry.
I believe we're just looking for Choice Belt to get over the line. There's only 3 bench Pokemon for Wayne here.
Correct.
Going to see the training court at the very least for Henry. He's going to take his time. He knows he's in a very strong position. And as you say, even if he can't win this turn, simply by evolving and getting that turn attachment already puts his mind at ease here. That he's going to be in a much better position.
There's a choice, but you've got to imagine a quick
shooting active. So he's still just shy, but he's putting himself in range, right?
I believe this is in range of a quick shooting. So we've got 8 bench Pokemons, 1/6. I think that's 220, 250 plus a quick shooting.
Again.
Should be literally exactly 10. For the second time, exactly 10 away. But of course, we know there's quick shooting, so Henry doesn't need any energy next turn.
Yeah, this is checkmate, I think.
This is as good as checkmate. Because Wayne could actually gust and KO that quick shooting in Teleon, but anything he puts, well, and then anything he puts active gets KO'd immediately by Henry, and we do see Wayne realizes that, and that looks like a win for Henry, and we're going to be heading off to game 3. We are not done yet.
Yeah, really exceptional stuff from Henry there. Some heads-up prize taking mid-turns, always a great thing to see.
Oh, yes.
You look at your hand, you say, that's not good enough, let me just grab a couple more over here. And of course, he used that Hisuian heavy ball earlier on in the game, so he was fully aware of his outs there, allowing him to seal up a really nice game. And a very early quick shooting coming into play, partly because he prized his Sword and Shield in Teleon, but it meant that, hey, I may as well get this and get some value. And he really used that very nicely. Very, very crafty plays. It's a very mathy matchup where you're both trying to stay in and out of range in different moments, but the Inteleon allows you to really get creative.
It really does, and it's a card that used to be played a lot more. It used to really be
essential, right?
Yeah, essential to a lot of strategies, and nowadays it tends to be played as a cheeky little one-of in some Inteleon decks, but not all. And I think what we saw there is how it can be absolutely crucial in some games. You know, 2 of Henry's KOs were the 3 he took, or at least 4 of the prizes, were only made possible because of that quick shooting in Teleon. Now, we do have a Drizzle and that Radiant Greninja's prize, and we know how good Radiant Greninja is.
Yeah, Henry does play the Hisuian heavy, so he might be able to get that at a decent time. Is also going to get the benefit of a mulligan here in the 3rd game. Wayne does have his own tricks up his sleeve. He has the Leon, which we didn't quite see in that 2nd game, but it was certainly on his radar. Also has those choice belts. Couple awkward mulligans, not ideal when you're going into this 3rd game, but at least he's going to be going first here.
And Henry's had a pretty bad start, game 1 and game 2. Henry is yet to actually have a good start, but starting off with an extra 2 cards from mulligans, and you know, Henry's got to be thinking, I can't keep drawing this badly. I've tested this deck. I know it's more consistent than this. You know what? Game 3 is where it's at. And you've got to think, if Henry has a really good start, Henry's going to be able to, well, it's going to be nice to be able to play this a little bit differently. We at least, it looks like, have a Dialga to start, a Palkia to start, so that is going to help against an Ice Rider. Hey, Greninja's in both prize cards.
Wayne will be kicking off this 3rd game then with an Ice Rider Calyrex V as his active Pokemon. Henry has the Origin form Palkia V. I'm going to see a benched Sobble for Wayne, also eyeing up an Ultra Ball. Discarding Roxanne early on here. Doesn't have any water energy in his hand. I think that's something that's massively lacking.
That really is. And then Wayne, like most players, only plays a single copy of Roxanne, and Henry's going to know that, or at least highly suspect it. So that means that's going to change the way Henry thinks about the mid to late game here, knowing that Roxanne isn't such an issue. We saw Wayne playing around the Roxanne in the previous game. That might not be, well, it's not going to be an issue for Henry here. What is going to be an issue is that there's only 7.5 minutes left. We are in game 3. An early ties in the World Championship. This is too big a tournament. There's 8 rounds today. You can't be you can take early ties, but it just makes life so much more awkward going through the event.
Yeah, it's almost a loss. It's not quite exactly a loss like it is or was yesterday, but it still doesn't feel great. You really need to accumulate as many match points as possible. So we'll see if we can get some turbo games in here. Henry is eyeing up his first turn options, already has access to Sobble, has some Water Energy and a Quick Ball as well. Won't, unfortunately, be able to get a Radiant Greninja early on here. That's probably in his mind already, but it's not going to be available, unfortunately. So we'll have to settle for maybe another Origin form Palkia here.
He is going to be a little bit disappointed. The Radiant Greninja is one of the downsides of these Radiant Pokemon. They're limited to one copy in your deck, so if it's prized, and you are not having it till you can get it out. It's why Hisuian Heavy Ball, one of the reasons at least, has become a real one-off staple in a lot of decks, because you need access to these. We've seen so many games already this weekend that have been decided because of Radiant Greninja. It's been an absolutely huge card throughout the weekend, but Henry's still got access to Sobble, still got access to those Origin form Palkia. You've got to imagine that Radiant Greninja is going to be here at some point, and when the Hisuian Heavy Ball comes out, you know Henry's going to just make an absolute beeline for it. So we get a second Palkia, and we're going to see some Sobble hit the board as well.
I wonder if we'll see any turn attachment. Now that you know that there's no option for Radiant Greninja, it feels like a reasonable choice. Does choose to go active and is going for a boss's orders to maybe slow things down for Wayne, and we are going to see a Rule the Region here to end Henry's turn, grabbing a Stadium out of his hand. It's essentially just deck thinning for him, to be honest.
Yep. I kind of love it, though. You don't see Rule the Region very often.
No.
So even though it's not a particularly crucial attack, I like seeing the attacks you don't usually see.
Yeah, I mean, it's got such an epic name for such a mediocre effect. It's some nice hyperbole there, but regardless, we do move over to Wayne, who now has the Shady Deal on his side. Will he be able to launch any attack this turn? Will he be able to piece together a Melanie, or will he be forced into an early V-Star power here?
I mean, they are both options. It's one of the things these water decks do so well, between the V-Star power, Melanie, Raihan, although obviously that's only after a KO. Yeah. There are plenty of options to accelerate energy. I mean, we've got things like Frostlass and Frostmoth, which these decks don't even play, because they can accelerate water energy in multiple different ways without them. So, you know, having these two energy attackers, it really is quite nice. You've got options for that extra little bit of energy, and it really does make a big difference. So, I think Wayne can get an attack off if he wants to. The question really becomes, do you want the attack, or would you rather just set up your board pressure and go for bigger attacks later?
Yeah, and Wayne is slightly missing a step, but was able to grab the Irida in the end and does opt for another Ice Rider V, as well as a Capacious Bucket. Just has a couple cards in hand as well. I'm not certain of an easy route here for him to actually attack, unless he's holding on to possibly a Quick Ball or an Ultra Ball here.
Oh, yes.
Does already have Melanie in hand, but he's already just used that Irida. I'm not sure if he's actually launching much of an attack here.
No, I mean, Radiant Greninja would be great here. That would be really useful. It's not an option, so it does look like, obviously, you go for the Irida. That means Melanie's off the table, one supporter per turn. So it looks like we're going to bench the Ice Rider.
Rule the Region.
Rule the Region.
Man, it's the most I've seen this for a long time.
This might be the first time it's ever happened back-to-back with all the testing games played. So, I mean, and it's the same stadium that Henry's got, so there is a question here. Do you want to play it so it doesn't clog up your hand, or do you just want to use it as fodder?
Yeah, let's see how Henry wants to react to this. Wayne has got a sort of middling bench size, but certainly in range for Henry if he does go as wide as possible, and also even weaves in Choice Belt. It is a possibility for him to get a KO here. But Henry's hand still doesn't look too hot, I don't think.
No, he's got a bit of slow start, and we're down to 3.5 minutes remaining. We do need to keep an eye on the clock here. Nobody's taken a prize. Nobody's even launched an attack yet that does anything other than find a stadium card. So that means that we are a little bit short on time here, and this does look like it might end in a tie unless one of these players can really start pushing things, and they've got to be aware of it at this stage. They've played enough games. Your internal clock goes off at some point and tells you, hang on a second, I've got to be a little bit faster here. So we do see the attack from your Origin form Palkia V-Star, but it's not getting a KO. Not even just, it's on the regular V. So, yeah, fine, you get to do 160 damage. That's lovely. It's not enough.
No, it does put the pressure on Wayne a little bit here, who also has like a fairly subpar turn. I believe they do have access. There you go, the shiny Inteleon. allowing him to deal a bunch of time. So we'll see how he wants to navigate this. I imagine in this scenario you want to find some discard fodder for your Melanie for support of a turn. So I imagine that's going to be a piece of the puzzle here.
Yeah, you've got to think that's going to be one of the things they're going for. I mean, at this stage, you just need attacking. There comes a point where you can't just keep setting up, and essentially, if you don't start attacking, you are not going to have time to win, no matter how good your setup is. So maybe you go for, I mean, an Ice Rider this turn would be great. Get a one-hit KO on Palkia V-Star. Really put Henry just completely on the back foot. Almost ignore your own Palkia and just hope, because there's no V-Star power being used here. So you've got to kind of discard 2 water energy to do the big attack with Ice Rider, but you're probably not getting return KO'd. So if you can get one of those attacks off of a V-Star power, one of those attacks off with an attachment and a Melanie, Wayne could actually string Ice Rider attacks together and win quite quickly here. But you got a 1.5 minutes, and then you got the +3 turns. Whoever's turn it is when time runs out is turn 0, and then you got 1 for your opponent, 2 for you, 3 for your opponent. That's it, game is over. And if we haven't decided a winner, if nobody's met a win condition, we end in a tie.
Wayne is certainly taking their time here. A good amount of options again. When there's Melanie, when there's turn attachment, when there's the potential to even V-Star power, there's all sorts of attacks that could be launched on this turn. Could even be eyeing up at one point the Hisuian Heavy Ball to try and even weave in their own Radiant Greninja. But instead it's going to be double Evolution Incense here.
Looks like it.
So that means he's certainly got his eye on the Ice Rider.
Gotta think so. And I mean, honestly, you need the choice belt. The choice belt's huge. But if you've got access to the choice belt, all you need to do here is just V-Star power, don't muck about, get the 2 energy on there. I mean, you could even put 3 energy on there if you've got that much in your discard. And then, you know, potentially chain attacks.
So we have the turn attachment, and then we can pay retreat into the Ice Rider, and then Melanie could be your supporter. And then if you need to, you could still V-Star power. Oh, you would have to, because you're going to have to attach to retreat if you want that. But you're not getting maximum value. But it does have the choice back. It would be a lot of tempo.
I like this. I want this. And then you Melanie next turn and turn attach. So I'm fully in favor of this. And I am an overly aggressive player when I play. I'm fully aware of this. But
why not, right?
This is my play. This is what I would be doing. And then next turn, I'm looking for the Melanie, and I'm looking for the turn attachment. We have hit zeros, though. So it depends who's turn 0. If Wayne's got 2 more turns, would need 2 prize KOs. And the problem is, when you're relying on Melanie, you cannot Melanie and Boss's orders. But Wayne does play cross-switcher. But Wayne has no Sobble or Drizzle to evolve in Shady Dealings. Right. So it is going to be a long road. It's going to be a lot to ask for Wayne to win this game.
Yeah, Wayne is very limited in what he can achieve next turn, locking himself into the Melanie. And we'll see how Henry really wants to react. That will give us a good indication whether or not we are into that turn 0, because if we are, Henry's probably just going to start grabbing as many 1 prizes as possible and just start spamming them onto the board and try and get that Manaphy down so he can't suffer multiple KOs, and try and evolve up into that V-Star as quickly as possible. Maybe some stalling Boss's orders plays. Basically, he'll give up on attacking at this point if he knows we're in time.
Yeah, we have had confirmation Henry is turn 0. We have been told that. So Henry's got the end of this turn and 1 more. Wayne's got 2 turns. And the question is whether Wayne can win the game in those 2 turns. Honestly, if I'm Henry here, see, it's awkward. Ideally, what you want is bench 2 single prize Pokemon, including a Manaphy, and that kind of guarantees Wayne can't win the game. Now, we know Wayne doesn't have access to Radiant Greninja, but Henry doesn't. There's some clues that he might not have access to, but if you can protect your bench and not put another 2 prize Pokemon down, it becomes literally impossible for Wayne to win the game in 2 turns. That's all we really need here, and I think this is what Henry's going for. We're actually going to see a keep calling here just to get more single prize Pokemon on the bench. Honestly, if Henry's able to get a Manaphy, that's game.
Yep, we'll see if Wayne can try and take 2 prizes on this turn. I think that's kind of what he has to do, but there's no real raid to Radiant Greninja at all, so I imagine this should lock things up as a tie in this first round.
He could have Hisuian Heavy Ball, but you're asking a lot at this stage. I mean, we would have to get a Hisuian heavy ball.
I mean, we've spent the V-Star power, so the Radiant Greninja's not bursting onto the scene, unfortunately. And it doesn't have enough turns to manually get there, so it is just going to be the Ice Rider. I think we needed to see Melanie hitting like the other cross switcher there to have any hope, where you just knock out the Palkia.
That would have
maybe
to be
get towards Echoing Horn, but it's just going to be a Rider the High King for a one-prize knockout, and Henry can simply pass now.
Yeah, I mean, a Hisuian heavy ball for the Greninja would have been to see extra cards to try and get towards that cross switch and not for the attack. It was a very, very long shot. I'm willing to admit that. But unfortunately, Wayne took a single prize. He's only got one more turn remaining. This is going to end in a tie at this stage. Neither player has the time to actually win the game. There is no way Wayne is able to take enough prizes, unfortunately, to win the game. So there's no free prize turn coming. Henry's not taking 6 prizes in one turn. And we do end with a tie. Wayne and our defending world champion Henry ended at 1 game each, and they start their world championships with a tie.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious to say it's not the best, it's not the worst to have a tie. I think on reflection, the way both players drew, you pretty much just take that on the chin. A pretty close matchup, an almost mirror match situation. The Ice Rider comes with extra power, some extra tricks, but also can be a little bit clunkier at times and is more limited in its range of plays. Henry's deck decisions, very interesting there, not seeing the cross switcher, pretty much a staple in a lot of the lists, so bringing something different as well. We saw at times when the boss's orders was extremely effective, but it also limited his plays at moments. So going to be interesting to follow both players, of course. We can't write them off just yet. A tie isn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. You do still have to get on that winning streak, though, if you're going to want to make it through to tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. That is very, very important. You need to get that winning streak. You need to get going. We know Henry's picked a very good deck. We know that he's a very good pilot of the deck. And it is worth noting that, you know, set up very badly in the first 2 games and then ran out of time. That's not a loss that you look at and go, oh, I've picked the wrong deck, or I played really badly. It is just an unfortunate situation where you didn't draw too well, you ran out of time. There's got to be a little bit of confidence there. And I think you've got to be a confident player to play Palkia in this metagame, because you're going to have a lot of mirror match. Essentially, if you're picking Palkia at the World Championships this year, you aren't saying, hey, I like Palkia. You are saying, I am one of the very best players in the world at playing Palkia. Because this room is stacked with phenomenal players, many of whom are picking Palkia. So if you're making that choice, you've got to be saying, I am better than them.
Yeah, and we all hail that Inteleon engine, but so often we do see those opening turns are ropey. If you get those couple Sobble down and your attacker and a turn attachment, you're feeling great. The remainder of your game is exceptional, and you can have some crazy power spike plays. But at that same merit, we can see Sobble attach pass, and then you're really just twiddling your thumbs, hoping things can work out in the next few turns. But it still seems to be the best option, so we will be seeing how the Inteleon engine does for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet this is not the last time we're going to see that Inteleon engine. The good news is we have plenty more games for you guys today. So we're going to take a little bit of a break. So grab yourselves a nice cold beverage. Do not go anywhere, because we have got plenty more action, and we're going to be back real soon. Hi trainers, my name is Ross Gilbert, and I'd like to tell you about the best deck that has come around from the recent Astral Radiant expansion for the Pokemon trading card game. It's Origin Form Palkia V-Star. Palkia's main attack, Subspace Swell, is a great attack that puts your opponent in an awkward position. It deals 60 base damage, plus an additional 20 damage for each bench Pokemon in play, yours and your opponent's. So the more Pokemon your opponent chooses to put into play, the more damage Subspace Swell will deal. This can lead to some difficult choices for your opponent and cause them not to play Pokemon that they would really like to play. Assuming you keep your bench full, and Palkia players will very much be looking to do this, if your opponent has even 3 bench Pokemon, you'll be dealing 220 damage, enough to knock out the vast majority of Pokemon V in one hit. You can even use Choice Belt to take key knockouts on Pokemon V when your opponent only has 2 bench Pokemon. Not only does Origin Form Palkia V-Star have a phenomenal attack, it also has an extremely useful V-Star power as well. Star Portal allows you to attach up to 3 water energy cards from your discard pile to your water Pokemon in any way you like. making Subspace Swell's 2 energy attack cost seem even lower, but also allowing you to play a variety of Water-type Pokémon, knowing that you'll be able to power them up when needed. One such Water-type attacker might be Starmie V. Its Energy Spiral attack does 50 damage for each energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokémon, meaning you can punish your opponent not just for playing Pokémon, but also for attaching energy to them. You will often see players not attaching energy that they usually would, just to stay out of range of an Energy Spiral knockout. Another new Water-type Pokémon that shines in this deck is Radiant Greninja. Although you can only play one Radiant Pokémon in total in your deck, Greninja more than earns its place. A lot of decks, Water and otherwise, choose Greninja for the excellent Concealed Cards ability that allows you to draw 2 cards, just so long as you discard an energy card from your hand. As you're playing Water energy though, you can also use the fantastic Moonlight Shuriken attack that deals 90 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokémon, often enough to take knockouts onto weaker Pokémon on your opponent's bench. Being an entirely Water deck also opens up some really nice options in terms of trainer cards. Melanie allows you to attach a Water energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokémon V and draw 3 cards, perfect for Palkia and Starmie's 2 energy attacks. Nessa lets you put 4 in any combination of Water Pokémon and Water energy from your discard pile into your hand, perfect for reusing resources in the mid to late game. And Capacious Bucket is an item card that lets you take 2 Water energy from your deck, perfect not just for getting energy to attach, but also to take advantage of Radiant Greninja's Concealed Cards ability. Origin Form Palkia V-Star looks like the best deck to come out of Astral Radiance, and early results in Japan have backed this up. So stay tuned to see if Palkia can have the same impact on the Pokémon TCG as cards like Mew V Max and Arceus V-Star.
Pasemos al siguiente. Bueno, veremos la actuación del mexicano.
Specific Pokemon you need to fulfill that requirement of having one of each of the Reggies in play. Meanwhile, going up against the titan of the metagame, that Palkia deck. I know that Isaiah at NAIC was one of the early adopters of the Battle VIP Pass variants, trying to get those explosive starts. And at this level of play, we've said it over and over again, Ethan, if you can just have that ability to get an early high roll, have that massive tempo right out of the gate, you can pick up a win otherwise when your opponent might be able to shut you down.
Yeah, these prizes are important. 3 Reggie Pokemon prized for Pablo. Isaiah prizing the Manaphy. That's a pretty key card. The Terra Spark attack on Regieleki does damage the bench Pokemon. It can set the Palkia up for perfect math. Here we go. We're jumping into things. Round number 5 between both of these players. And Isaiah starting off the best way you possibly can with that gold Battle VIP Pass.
Battle VIP Pass, getting the setup completed. And this is some of the huge power that this deck wants. You just get immediately the Sobbles already prepared in play, Radiant Greninja to get that online, the Palkia V, get that set up on your first turn so you can hopefully get that energy attachment, threaten with the evolution, and from there, your opponent is already on the back foot. You've got pretty much your entire setup ready to go, and Pablo starting out with Regirock in the opener is not the best attacker for this list. It has a lot of flexibility with, again, the Regi Ice and things of that nature, but specifically Regirock is probably on the lower end of what you want to see to start out. But with, as you said, the Pokestops and all these other different tools, this list can also go from seemingly nothing to having all of the Regis collected and ready to go to activate that Ancient Wisdom. Pablo only on 1 copy of the Hisuian Heavy Ball, so needs to fish that out quickly to get the missing Regis out of the prize cards.
Yeah, Isaiah Bradner not running it back with the same 60 cards as NAIC, opting to now play the Quick Shooting Inteleon from Chilling Reign, as well as Crobat V for a little bit extra draw. We've seen that card come back into play throughout this weekend to get some more heavy-hitting power. An interesting card, not relevant in this matchup, but the Canceling Cologne is a great way to shut Manaphy off and give yourself access to a big turn where you can bypass the water availability on Manaphy, hit these bench Pokemon, and yeah, take some extra prize cards, do what you need to do. But resuming back to the game, Isaiah Bradner grabbing the Palkia and Sobble off this Battle Pass. Unable to play a supporter, but when you're playing for Battle Pass in your deck, the whole point is to try to find these going first so you can really pop off and take knockouts consistently on your second turn before your opponent has a chance to attack.
Once you get this first Battle VIP Pass, the setup is done. All the remaining copies just become fodder for your quick balls, etc. So Isaiah already off to a fantastic setup. Has the Radiant Greninja as well. This is the perfect turn for Palkia decks, and Pablo going to respond, has Regigigas, has Regieleki, going to attach that choice spell, already looking for that lightning attacker to take advantage of this water deck's weakness.
So the whole setup here really revolves around getting all 6 Pokemon in play, excuse me, needed to utilize the
and the heavy ball, beautiful.
Yeah, wow, big heavy ball there as well. This is really up to Pablo now to make a decision of what Pokemon do I grab at this point. It's most likely going to be either the Regice or the Regidrago. Regice seems like probably the better grab because Regidrago can be grabbed other ways, but instead it's actually going to be the Regirock getting out of the prize cards. You already have one in the play, but there's a good chance that it gets knocked out the following turn, so you're just going to want that to respond in comparison to if it gets knocked out, you're forced to find Ordinary Rod to get there. As we see the Twin Energy attached, and Regirock has a solid attack, especially as you're getting set up on the first turn of the game if you're going second. It's Regigate, allowing you to search your deck for a Pokemon with Regi in its name and put it onto your bench. All these Pokemon, Regieleki, Regice, Regidrago. And the Regidrago will be the selection put onto the Pokemon. It's actually a Pokemon with a basic, rather. It is a basic Pokemon, but in this deck, it's only Regi Pokemon. It's going to be the Regidrago. Pablo's looking pretty comfortable to get up this Ancient Wisdom ability running on the following turn. We'll need to find some of these special energy cards that provide some color in the energy attacks, such as the Aurora Energy and the Speed Lightning energies. Both work for that Regieleki. He does need 2 Lightning and 1 colorless energy.
The Lightning Energy, so important as well to get that extra card draw. Try to find those missing pieces, those missing Regis, but as I said, Pablo already showcasing how quickly all of the Regis can be assembled, and hopefully can start getting some attacks off. Isaiah had a perfect setup turn, is not going to fall behind in terms of setup, in terms of tempo whatsoever, and now we have the threat of the Origin form Palkia V-Star with Capacious Bucket here with the Concealed Cards ability, going to start putting that first water energy into the discard pile already working towards that star portal.
Yeah, if you're Isaiah, you're pretty scared of that bench Regieleki, and already having the choice band on, or rather choice belt on it, means that it is threatening a big Terra Spark attack for 150 damage before weakness. It'll be interesting to see how many of these choice belts that are being played. Pablo understands the importance of this card and has opted to run 4 copies of them. Most times you see Regi decks before the inclusion of Pokestop, or rather after being released in the Pokemon Go expansion. Maybe play 2. Some decks value it and play 3. But the fact that you can draw into it off the Pokestop, discarding the top 3 cards of your deck, if there's an item card there, it goes to your hand, you discard the other cards. It's a win-win. On the win side, you get items into your hand to accelerate your strategy. And even on the worst case, you discard some special energies, you're going to want those in the discard pile anyways to get back. Isaiah Bradner's not done, though. Irida can grab the cross switcher, and I think Isaiah also understands the importance of taking out these Regielekis. Doesn't know how many choice belt Pablo is playing, but getting rid of it means that Pablo is going to have to search, find for it, and get it onto these Regielekis to take these one-hit knockouts.
Irida, the other piece of the puzzle, allows you to search so fluidly for those cards that you need in the deck. Finds the one cross switcher and the Drizzile, and then Drizzile becomes the second cross switcher. So now we have access to that fantastic ability to get that gusting effect while also using your supporter for the turn. Beautiful deck thinning, and now we're going to try to chase down this Regieleki, take down that lightning threat before it becomes an issue.
Yep, so of course you're going to need to play these recovery cards to get the Regi Pokemon back into play. 4 Ordinary Rod, there's just a lot of 4-ups in this deck. 4 Scoop Net, Ordinary Rod, a lot of the search options as well. All things to expect when you can utilize Pokestop to the best of the ability. I think this is the card, or the deck rather, that Pokestop, when it was revealed, people were like, okay, if there's one deck that's really going to shine because of the inclusion of Pokestop, this is the one. Double cross switcher to bring up the Regieleki. Isaiah Bradner taking the first knockout, going to 5 prize cards as Regidrago enters the active position, and hand is not looking great. But Dragon's Horde is a great ability that can allow the Regi player to have a little bit of extra draw support. Fail the hand up to 4. We could see this hand get thinned down all the way, but it would require discarding some key pieces that Pablo is going to need for this upcoming turn.
Already the thinning begins. Trying to find, again, we still need Regi Ice. We need to get the Aurora energies into the discard pile. Pablo has the Pokemon in play, but needs to get the rest of the supporting engine, properly set up so we can begin swinging. Isaiah properly pressuring after having such a beautiful setup into the cross switcher play. Going to continuously strike down the Regis repeatedly, and it's going to force Pablo not only to focus on finding the Aurora energies, but also recovering the lost Regis from the discard pile so they can be rebenched.
They're all here. They're all ready to go. All 6 Regi Pokemon are available, which means that the abilities can be utilized. Ancient Wisdom is available. You can go ahead and attach 3 energy cards from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon, and you can start to see how this deck has access to so many different powerful attacks.
You can use the attachment in order to find any of your Regis into an attacking aggressive position. It also allows you to, if you've got 2 of them set up, you can pay for that hefty retreat cost to get it out of the active. As we said, Pablo is playing the 4 scoop up net in order to make sure these Regis don't get stranded when you want to attack. But for now, Pablo needs to find those Aurora energies and get those into the discard pile. Energy Lotto looking at the top cards of the deck, going to try to find it here. There's the Aurora.
Yeah, it does find the Aurora energy. That's very important. Go ahead and discard that, or even attach it to this Regieleki. He really wants to utilize the attachments for turn. The speed lightning energies, those are very important because you can just draw some extra cards. You fulfill the attack requirement as well, and you already see the speed energies in hand. So Aurora energy there, going to be a good way to discard. Also has access to the Pokestop Stadium card. What are these draws? Does draw into a supporter for a turn. We haven't seen that yet, so that could go ahead and happen. The Energy Lotto is, rather the Aurora energy is in hand. It's really where you don't want to see that card because you want to be able to draw into it. You know you're not going to find enough Pokestop unless you reorganize the deck via a searching card before you utilize it. So let's see what these cards provide. Is there any way to discard special energies? Wow, an excellent draw there. Finds the quick ball in combination with a few special energies. If there's a way to get something like a scoop up net and another energy in the discard pile, but no. Here. Yeah, looks like already utilized the Pokestop, so unable to make that happen. Isaiah Bradner's going to be able to take another prize card here. Could target down the Regieleki. There's so many lines available. The main thing really is just to make sure that at the end of the day, you want to try to exhaust Pablo's as many resources. Every time you knock these Regi Pokemon out, Pablo has to recover them in order to continue getting these attackers powered up. And at the same time, on Isaiah's side, you've got to string together these attacks to respond to Regieleki. Your Palkia could be in danger the following turn as long as there's a Choice Belt and 2 more energy onto this Regieleki. So both players are considering multiple lines of play. You've got to adapt. These players are known as top players for reasons because they've shown that no matter the situation, they can find a way to get out of it and succeed.
This Regi deck really came exploding onto the scene once players thought it was just a fun deck and proved that it had a little bit more going for it. And then it started to get countered. Players were running tons of Avery, trying to shut down the bench space and try to bully it down. But even then, the deck adapted in turn and was able to have the resiliency and the ability to recover those lost Regis and keep the train going. And so now Pablo is showing, hey, if with all of the other techs and big scary decks that you need to account for, this Regi deck isn't going to be hard countered. But we can see here, even without Isaiah countering it directly with Avery or other things like that, you still need to jump through some hoops to get those Aurora energies into the discard pile to activate the Ancient Wisdom. Regigigas was benched on the first turn and has just been sitting here waiting and waiting and waiting for the rest of the setup to happen.
I remember Blockface Ice Cube. that card was played when this deck was considered to be a threat to just utilize Blockface over and over again. But Isaiah Bradner, again, just understands, hey, all your other Regi Pokemon, I can deal with them. They're one-price Pokemon that sometimes don't even 2-hit knock out my Palkia. Your Regieleki's a threat, so anytime you play one down, I'm going to do my best to utilize my Gusting cards on it. When it comes to Gusting cards, Isaiah is still playing 4 copies of the Cross Switcher. That is still a card that is valued as powerful and a way to gust up. And there's only 1 Boss's Orders, so we've already seen 2 out of 3 Gusting effects played. I have to wonder if you're Pablo, you understand that there can only be maybe a maximum of 3, maybe 4 Gusting effects. Just try to play around on that, and the fact that it also didn't remove a Choice Belt is, in a sense, you don't want to lose your Regieleki, but it's fine now that you can attach a Choice Belt to this new one. 7 fresh new cards. What do we see? Does have the way to pivot out the Regigigas with manual retreat, and I believe there is also now enough energy in the discard pile, so I believe the knockout is there. Going to utilize Pokestop as well, getting rid of the Ordinary Rod, but it goes back into the hand, and now that seals it up completely. The Aurora energies in the discard pile, they can be brought back. We're going to see our first Ancient Wisdom ability. Look at this power. This Regieleki is ready to spark away.
Beautiful. This is the other way to get those energies in the discard, is to just build up one of the Regis and use that heavy retreat cost to get those discarded. Regieleki now in the active with the Choice Belt, trying to find the rest of the pieces to take down this Origin Form Palkia, take 2 prize cards and even it up.
Pablo taking 2 prize cards, finds that Hisuian Heavy Ball that was put back into the prizes. This can grab the other Regi pieces. However, Pablo's main goal is to just replace Regieleki every turn. There's really no reason Isaiah Bradner would be going after these pieces specifically that are not Regieleki, because if you leave the Regieleki with a Choice Belt, it's there to threaten an attack the following turn.
The Regieleki, as you already talked about, Ethan, so important, and it's just part of this Regi deck. It has a very fun, unique setup style, but it still has that single prizer toolbox angle that we've seen so many lists with, like the Radiant Charizard, try to take advantage of. It's channeling a little bit of that flexible energy, having a lot of different attacking types available thanks to the Aurora energy. So easy to get so many threats in play and just pivot into whatever you need.
Yep, we'll see the other Palkia get grabbed. And here we go. Inteleon, Shady Dealings. This can grab a variety of different pieces. The knockout is there, and this is, we haven't really talked about this, but sort of throughout the weekend we have that Aqua Bullet Inteleon, or Shady Dealings Inteleon, should sometimes be known as Aqua Bullet Inteleon, because that attack is pretty powerful. The math lines up perfectly against Regieleki. Most of these Regi Pokemon, besides Regigigas is 150. It's a little bit of a tankier boy, but every other Pokemon besides Regieleki has 130 HP. That's just short of Aqua Bolt knocking it out, but Regieleki a little bit bouncier, a little bit more spry, has only 120 HP, so Aqua Bolt can line up the math and can also deal a little bit of damage to a bench Pokemon to line it up for later. Star Portal has already been used though, so I have to imagine if you're Isaiah, you want some advantage when it comes to disruption and acceleration. Marnie's a good start on that first point.
Marnie shuffling all the hands down, trying to reset Pablo, make it a little bit harder to find any missing Regis or recovery to get this Alecki back. This means that the heavy ball, I believe that was in the hand, is going to be down at the bottom, and Isaiah just slowly closing in on the prizes, taking the advantage here of also promoting a single prize Pokemon to slow Pablo down as well. Needs to buy a couple turns to set up the next Palkia to maybe attack in.
Yeah, this hand is excellent. The only thing it's missing right now is a way to get this Regieleki back from the discard pile. Needs to find an Ordinary Rod. Had 2 Cynthia's Ambition and can now utilize it. We saw this card a lot when Urshifu, Rapid Strike Urshifu was played, and now we're finally seeing it again. Cynthia's Ambition fills your hand up to 5, but if one of your Pokemon was knocked out the previous turn, you get to fill your hand up to 8 instead. An incredibly powerful effect. And look at that. There's the Ordinary Rod. Can put back both Regieleki. Now comes the question of how are you going to get this Regidrago out of the active spot? Scoop up nets seems like the only option as of right now.
All the scoop up nets and the Ordinary Rods having to be used repeatedly to pivot these heavy Regis out of the active to find the Regieleki. Puts them back in the deck and then immediately fishes it out with the quick ball. And now after the shuffle, we need to find a way to get this Regidrago out. As I said, you can just Ancient Wisdom onto that active and then retreat to send those energies back into the discard pile. But then you're still promoting a Regi that your opponent can just knock out, and then you have to jump through the hoops once again of recovering a Regi. Do we have a double perhaps that you can just place down? The idea, I guess, is we retreat maybe into Regi Ice. We know there's one in the prizes. Then if you find that heavy ball, we can get the Regi Ice.
This is a really smart play with what's happening right now. Usually players would be like, okay, I'm going to use Terra Spark again to take a knockout, but Giant Fang does just enough damage to knock out this Inteleon, and that means you don't have to sacrifice a Regieleki to take this knockout. You can use Regidrago. You still got another one in the prize cards. You know you now have the Yasuian Heavy Ball, ways to recover that card as well. At this point now, Isaiah Bradner down 2 of the 3 gusting effects. The Regieleki already has this choice belt. On top of that, Isaiah's not going to have the ability to just search out cards with Irida because Star Portal has already been used. There's no energy in play. Melanie is going to have to be the supporter of choice if Isaiah wants to attack.
So many games coming down to 3 cards off of Melanie to find that missing piece. It's not typically a position you find yourself in when you're using the Inteleon engine. These Palkia decks seem to have access to their entire deck at any given time. But indeed, the Drizzile does find the Melanie, and we need to draw a few more cards to find a way to take down this Regidrago. Pablo opting for just 2 of the Dragon's Horde variants, not trying to use the other. That's that big attacking effect.
Listen, that one is one I definitely like, that there are higher counts of Dragon's Horde. You'd rather have consistency in this deck than a 240 damage attack that sometimes can deal a little bit less. Definitely on Pablo's side of shooting
being so popular nowadays, the Dragon Energy is just not the way to go.
Yeah, you've got better attackers as well, but here's the Melanie. It's going to go ahead and accelerate this onto the bench, and this makes me think that Isaiah's got access to the Cross Switchers potentially, has used the only Shady Dealings ability available for this turn. The route's pretty clear for Isaiah if he's able to find this. Attack with the Palkia V-Star this turn. From there, you're going to put yourself in a spot. Oh, wow, he's going to risk this Pokestop here. Does this find the pivoting card? No, does put the Battle Pass and the Evolution Incense in the hand, but this Evolution Incense can't grab anything. I think was banking off of finding the Cross Switcher to take a knockout onto this Regieleki, but at the cost of getting putting yourself into a little bit more of an advantageous position, Isaiah seems, unless I don't really think I see 2 Cross Switcher, maybe there are.
If Isaiah misses out on the attack here, Pablo can maybe swing again with this Regieleki, and then, you know, the prize trade starts to become edged into Pablo's favor here.
Yeah, the game works out very differently depending on if Isaiah gets this. If Isaiah is able to bring this Pokemon up, he's in a pretty solid spot. Can go ahead and take this, go to 2 prize cards, and then can utilize the Roxanne in combination with taking a knockout to pretty much put their opponent in a spot where they've got to get another choice belt. And wow, no, doesn't have the Cross Switcher counts, has to commit the energy to this active Palkia. This is a huge miss from Isaiah.
And just has to rule the region. This attack that you never seem to see has just been another random failsafe for these decks, just to do something for the turn. You know, thinning is winning, as they say, but here it is, the Ancient Wisdom now accelerating the Regieleki, and the Regidrago, powered up from the last turn, can just throw all of these energies back into the discard pile and retreat. And Regieleki is back into the active and ready to go with the Choice Bell. This isn't even a Palkia V-Star, 220 HP as well within swinging distance, and 2 prizes go over to Pablo. 1 more prize to take here in the first game of Swiss Round 5.
As we've seen, though, this game is not over. Roxanne is definitely a condition. Dragon's Horde provides a little bit of protection against that, can fill the hand up to 4. We see the Roxanne already in hand, understands the potential of Drizzile later down in the future. Use the screw on that, and there it is. Gets thrown down right away. Roxanne. So Isaiah is gonna, they can't take multi-prize turns at this point, especially with Star Portal being used. So Isaiah's track to win is to knock out this Regieleki, hope another one doesn't come down to play to turn on the Ancient Wisdom ability, and then hope that for one more turn, the math is not there to be able to take a knockout onto this Palkia. That's what it's going to come down to at this point. These are going to be a big 2 cards for Pablo. What are they? Does find the Pokestop, and that could be a big opening to find some pieces next turn. Isaiah's got the attack lined up here at this point. Maybe can try to power up another Palkia to pivot into and force Pablo to have the gusting effect, but with the way this hand works, there's no shady dealings. It doesn't look like any quick ball either. Maybe stuck trying to ride on this Palkia to close this game number 1 out.
We've seen games come down to a clutch game state like this, where you need your opponent to have the, that gust or something, and the Roxanne buys just enough time, throws your opponent off balance, and you can make it happen. But Regieleki goes down. Regidrago back up into the active, going to use the Dragon's Horde to counteract the Roxanne.
Yeah, all that's needed now at this point is a single Choice Belt. A Choice Belt will close this game out. Boss's Orders as well down the line can do it. And here we go. Pokestop being played down. Marnie, these are our big 5 cards. Do we see the Choice Belt? No, not quite. Can thin it out a little bit more with the Energy Lotto, with the Quick Ball as well. These are choices you've got to make. We'll see the Energy Lotto get played first. Would it have been in the top 3? It wouldn't have been in the top 3, so that's definitely a little bit of a relief. Can go and find one of these energy cards. If Pablo wants to, can play another Quick Ball from the hand to find a Pokemon. It's 1 less card you're going to be seeing. This is getting tense. Pablo may have to just spin the wheel here with Pokestop. Spin the Pokestop, if you may say, and try to get the Choice Belt.
Once the Pokestop comes down, it's so tempting to use, but Pablo's going to try to make something happen without needing to use it first. The deck's so thin.
Yeah, there's 1 Choice Belt in the deck. There is still an Ordinary Rod as well, so if for some instance Pablo misses here, there is a way to get Pokemon back, and it's not the end of the world at this position. Looks like the deck is pretty thin as well, so maybe a 1 in 5 opportunity here to find it. And here we go, Pokestop. Do we see the Ordinary, or excuse me, we do see the Ordinary Rod, but we are going to Dragon's Horde up first, it looks like. Thinning the hand down to 0. Let's see how many cards are in there. It looks like 7 cards left. The Pokestop's there, and there it is, the Choice Belt in hand. We can see the Ancient Wisdom potentially. Oh, wait, no, there's no scoop up net. There's no way to pivot this Regieleki out of the active.
Yeah, the Regidrago is stuck. The Regieleki's not powered up just yet. Trying to find that Ancient Wisdom power-up. Can we get a manual attachment? That was already done.
Yeah, this position is still fine at this point because you can utilize the Dragon's Horde, or rather you can utilize Ancient Wisdom to attack the active, and Isaiah understands that needs time. That was a long game 1, almost 25 minutes. Pablo taking it so far up 1-0, showing us that, hey, Regieleki, the whole point of this deck is you're a 1 prize deck that hits weakness on most of the format. You hit great weakness onto Palkia. You've got the Regirock to hit weakness onto Arceus, and you've got a miscellaneous various types to hit against whatever comes up against you. If you have a fire deck you play against, Regi Ice works well. If you've got some deck that is weak to metal, you've got the Regi Steel. Regi Steel also very good against things like Mew, V hitting very hard. This deck has a lot of answers for a lot of different decks. It's what makes it good. It can be inconsistent at times, but after how Pablo navigated through that matchup, this deck looked very, very consistent and won pretty convincingly at the end.
It was Operation Saving Private Regieleki. Every time it went down, it came right back with the ordinary rod, just fishing it back out of the discard pile. And the Regis, the miscellaneous squad, has that way to stand up to the opponent trying to disrupt them in any capacity. I love that there were so many different pivots and so many different options available thanks to that ancient wisdom. And Isaiah Bradner, even with the perfect start, that Battle VIP Pass turn 1, the Radiant Greninja, the Palkia, just couldn't keep up the level of threat that Pablo was able to output, because you spend so much time chasing down the Regieleki or trying to take a return knockout. It just doesn't go through for you after that first Palkia goes down.
Isaiah wants to get right into it. There's the prize cards here. Nothing too relevant, a few Pokemon, but Isaiah's starting things out the same way as Game 1. Battle VIP Pass. Gonna kick things off. It's really gonna come down to what Isaiah did for the most part is pretty standard. It's how you navigate through this matchup. You want to attack with 3 2-prize Pokemon and 1 1-prize Pokemon. You want to utilize the first 2-prize Pokemon, then another one usually, and you want to weave a 1-prize Pokemon in, sometimes before, sometimes after, but the whole point is you want to pretty much go Rock Sand on your opponent, and you pretty much force them to hit the whole Regieleki Choice Belt play, or they have to find a Gusting Effect to take a knockout on the last 1-prize Pokemon.
So now we've got Regigigas stranded in the active, and now against the Sobble, Isaiah going for the exact same opener with the Battle VIP Pass, has the Palkia, Radiant Greninja, and you can see he's so excited to jump into this game. This isn't a very fast play where there's going to be mistakes. It's Isaiah already knowing this deck like the back of his hand, very confident in the plays, and trying to make this a short game 2 to have as much time as possible for game 3. Isaiah is already planning around this set going to game number 3.
Yeah, a tie is almost the same as a loss for Isaiah at this point. And the only advantage to a tie is maybe avoiding an extra round because of an asymmetrical cut or something to do with that, but that is not the concern for Isaiah. Isaiah just wants to make top cut at this point. Isaiah's mind is on the prize, but when it comes to Pablo's setup so far, it's really going to just come down to how fast things get set up. We've seen it on stream before. I'm having flashbacks to Milwaukee Regionals. We saw an incredible skill of display where, and it was actually John Eng, where his opponent went and got a turn 1 knockout with the Regi deck, and it can happen. Listen, you can find all the pieces you need, and you can get a knockout on the first turn. You have access to a supporter card to dig through your deck. All of your search options, find it. You've got 4 Quick Ball. You've got a lot of copies of Ultra Ball as well. It's possible. The only hard part is getting the energy in the discard pile, and it's now a little bit easier thanks to Pokestop, improving your consistency and getting those energies potentially in a discard pile.
And at the end of the day, you can just start manually attaching and saying, if this Regi gets knocked out, or if I get enough energy on it, I can retreat and get those energies into the discard pile the hard way. But Regidrago finds his way into the active spot to use that powerful Dragon's Horde.
Yeah, at this point here, these are going to be some big cards. Do we see a way to discard these? Okay, does have the energy Lottos and a speed lightning energy. I think the question, though, is do you really want to attack with the Regieleki to take a knockout on the Sobble, or would you rather have other outs? Pablo's going to take some time to think that over, look through the hand. There are some Aurora energies. Those are what you want to have. I think the debate for Pablo at this point is, do I want to put these in hand when I really want to discard these off Pokestop? It's sort of the trade-off where you can have them for hands for future turns to get your attachments and draw some more cards or discard some cards from your hand. But the downside is you want those in the deck now because of Pokestop. The gameplay and the way you play this deck has changed slightly now that this card is available. It really benefits this deck. You just have to play around it and use it to your advantage.
And now, with the Energy Lotto already resolved, we're just going right back into it, has the twin energy as well. And the Regidrago's just getting set up. I love the potential of the Dragon's Horde, allowing you to just dig through the deck just that little bit extra. This Regi deck can somehow, when it looks like it's set up, can miss one piece and suddenly just be thrown into chaos. But Pablo is finding a way to keep the consistency of the Regis up and running. There's the speed, lightning, energy to draw 2 more cards. And we're still missing a few more Regis. We need Regi Ice and we need Regi Steel.
Yeah, quick ball, very nice grab. That can go ahead and get rid of one of the energy cards in hand. This is kind of one of the positions where you're like, oh, well, I mean, you had to draw the cards with speed lightning anyways, but if there was still the attachment for turn, it would technically be there at this point. You would have the, looks like, would have enough energy in here. No, just the one actually. So not quite, unfortunately, just a little bit short of being able to get there. But the thing to note, though, is all 6 Regis are coming into play turn 1. That's how exciting pieces.
You'd think that it would be a lot harder to make this achievement happen, but the Pokemon TCG has proven to be so consistent, so many engines.
Well, that's big. That's a big discard.
The discard with the Pokestop.
That gets rid of the Aurora energy. That's 2 in the discard. So now my point stands if there was the attachment for turn. Okay, see, I had the right idea in mind at this point.
There we go.
Yeah, there's the Regice and Ancient Wisdom. It's online and ready to provide some knowledge to the rest of these Regi Pokemon.
Isaiah's like, please, my Sobble, please.
Yeah, both players are having a great time. This is what you love to see. Even when the competition gets fierce and intense, these players want to have a good time and just share their love for the game.
There's the Ancient Wisdom onto the Regieleki. Regidrago, still no way to get it out of the active, but the setup is now complete. Isaiah gets one more turn to at least get a Drizzile.
Yeah, so Isaiah only has access to 1 Shady Dealings ability this turn. Really wants to preserve Star Portal if possible, but I think the ideal scenario is, yeah, your Regieleki is threatened. Got to find a way to deal with that. It's going to be interesting to see how Isaiah navigates through that, but Evolution Incense to grab Drizzile, something we've seen a long time, but using gusting effects early means you're not going to have access to that later and can lead to some plays where Pablo can force up these attackers to set up Mav and maybe protect his Regielekis on the bench waiting for them to get a choice belt, because otherwise you're setting up for a 2-hit knockout. It's usually just better to hit with one of your other Pokemon that's not as valuable later on or even in the earlier mid-game.
Yeah, we've seen the, Radiant Charizard, for example, an attacker that you can get out of the discard pile and just immediately get it set up as an attacking threat, and that's exactly what this Regi deck can do. Even if this Regieleki does go down, we can try to bring it right back up and then get it powered up with the Ancient Wisdom ability, and then we've got this beautiful lightning attacker ready to swing back in. But so far, Isaiah's just trying to respond, has the Drizzile now, looking for, again, the gusting effect potentially to chase down this Regieleki. It doesn't have the belt on it yet, so it doesn't seem as worth, but still so much more setup needs to happen for Isaiah. We know that this Drizzile is going to go down, so we need to make sure that there is something set up and ready to shift into the active spot for that to happen. It's a real shame because, as you said, Ethan, you want to sprinkle in a single prize attacker, and we saw the Aqua Bullet really do a little bit of work there in game number 1, and hopefully Isaiah can replicate that, finds the Manaphy at the very least.
Yeah, Isaiah's going to go ahead and utilize Shady Dealings, also checking through the deck. You have to do it just to make sure you're not making plays where you think you have pieces in deck, but it's all time to consider. We've got a little bit over 18 minutes left. The way things are looking right now, 3 games may be hard to complete, and again, neither of these players want to tie, but Isaiah has the play to utilize Boss's Orders, evolve, using the V-Star power early yet again in game number 2. Still going to get the full effect, though, so we'll be able to power up this Palkia V-Star and potentially another one. I like the play onto the Palkia because there is a route where you want to evolve and then scoop up net this Inteleon the following turn. And by putting energy, it's just saying, well, it's just going to get discarded. I'd rather have this another thing. Having energy advantage is important because it allows you to utilize Roxanne more. You need to be able to attack as well in combination with that card. It's all possible thanks to Star Portal V-Star power.
Just a small decision there, where do you want to distribute this energy? Where do I want to diversify my threats? But we have the Origin Form Palkia V-Star now in the active. Regirock going to go up just to buy some time while we look for the tool to get Regieleki back.
That is a great discard. Yeah, wow, that is incredible. That is exactly what Pablo wanted. Just going to get rid of some cards. The Marnie is not exactly what you're looking for, but at this point, Pablo's strategy, yeah, Regice does have the Blizzard Bind attack. It does deal 100 damage and prevent any V Pokemon from attacking, and that could be Pablo's strategy at this point. The only issue is you're going to get down a Regieleki anyways if you want to be able to attack with it, and at that point, if your opponent has to cross-switcher to get out of the effect, they're more than happy to knock out the Pokemon they were wanting to attack anyways, which is that Regieleki.
When you are playing a single prize deck, you can take some oddball turns, even if your opponent is has the counters for what you're trying to do, has their setup completed. They have to still take 6 prizes. You know, you still have a lot of room there to complete the game. And now that Pablo is taking game 1, has 17 minutes left here in round, for game number 2 in the overall round of Swiss. He's still feeling pretty confident that you can win this and make it a clean 2-0. Isaiah Bradner, however, has 2 Palkia set up, can keep that attack train going, trying to counter, trying to keep up in the prize trade game. But Pablo now is getting the energies counted out, has another acceleration coming, maybe going to do something cheeky with this Regirock.
Yeah, we will see the capture energy go down onto the Regice. There's, I believe, almost all of the Aurora energy already in the discard pile, so those will all be available for Pablo to utilize Ancient Wisdom and put those back onto some Pokemon in play. Also has the Choice Belt as well. If there's a scoop-up net that can go and utilize something else, I think Pablo is deciding whether or not to commit this Choice Belt. He understands that Isaiah's game plan, regardless, is to target down these Regieleki, so if you're not attacking with the Choice Belt on it, the only way it can get disrupted from the hand is if something like a Marnie comes down, and that's not possible at this point unless a Cross-Switcher also comes down. That's a lot of resources used so early on.
And at the end of the day, you get your Giga Impact, you get your 140 damage onto the Palkia, and then you can maybe get that knockout a little bit later. Pablo does have a couple copies of Boss's Orders, of course, and so this just becomes another liability for Isaiah.
Yeah, and speaking of Marnie, it actually gets played here at this point, so the Regice only has 1 energy on it. Great set of cards, though, can thin the hand down and utilize Dragon Horde, things we see in Pablo do time and time again. Isaiah's got this knockout lined up. There is the potential for the Regieleki to also get knocked out. That's the advantage of playing Cross-Switcher in your deck. It's harder to find than a Boss's Orders, but you don't have to use your supporter card for turn. You also have to risk more deck slots, but at the same time, drawing cards, digging through your deck, and also finding a way to Gust are 2 of the most powerful effects in the game. And if you can do both on the same turn, you will put yourself in an excellent spot.
The Regi engine is up and running. Regirock goes down, taking those energies along with him, but Ancient Wisdom is going to bring that right back out into play. Regidrago going to be promoted into the active, maybe to use this Dragon's Horde if need be. I believe we have another Regirock ready to go. Ordinary Rod being eyed here. Just going to double check the discard the discard pile, making sure that there is a couple Regis in there to recover. First, Speed Lightning, thinning just a little bit. I mean, Pablo is in the driver's seat here. The setup is completed. Now it's just a matter of continuously finding that missing Regi, keeping the engine up and running smooth. Quick ball to discard the scoop-up net.
Yeah, Pablo had a hard choice, was thinking about discarding the scoop-up net or the Boss's Orders. Values having that Gust towards the end of the game to take that last prize that Isaiah's going to try to play around and put a bigger Pokemon in the hand.
That way when it gets Roxanne, it'll still be in the deck for you to fish out.
Yeah, so you hate to see the scoop-up nets go. We saw how vital they were for Pablo in game 1, already down 2 copies of it now, I believe, so only has 2 more left. But at this point, we could also see a big-time play where something else gets targeted down this turn with Boss's Orders. Go after another Pokemon, could actually go after the Palkia, the Origin Form Palkia V on the bench, but no, it looks like we're just going to see the Regirock attack again. And I like this play. You do utilize the scoop-up net this turn, but you make it so that you have the Dragon's Horde Regidrago to promote to start the turn, so that need be, whatever happens, you have the ability to fill your hand up, get going again, and find the Regi Pokemon you need to utilize Ancient Wisdom.
These decks, we talk so much about getting the setup, getting your engine up and running, but this isn't a deck that once it gets set up, it just starts playing itself. We're seeing these players showcase these micro decisions, these small efficiencies where you can promote one Pokemon over the other so you have pivots. You're giving yourself extra options to play around what your opponent's going to respond with. And already Irida setting up for Isaiah finding the next piece of the puzzle. What do you think he's going to grab at this situation?
Yeah, with Drizzle coming up, I think it might be time for Inteleon to put in some work. We could also see the Inteleon grab the Cross Switcher. The more I think about it, this Regirock is going to not be knocked out by an Aqua Bullet, and the problem with spreading damage around or trying to set up for those plays is Scoop Up Net can just heal it all up, and you don't mind discarding the energies or cards attached because, hey, you can just bring them right back with the Ancient Wisdom ability as well.
JD Dealington finds a training court. Gonna bump that Pokestop, trying to cut off those resources, trying to cut off that deck thinning that Pablo's been enjoying this whole time.
Yeah, definitely solid. You know you're gonna lose the Stadium War when it comes to this. Pablo's running max 4 copies of Pokestop, but really for the effect of getting it, it's pretty much just like a worse energy retrieval for the turn. You get one back, and it's the same if it stays in play for 2 turns, and Pablo's not going to benefit from it. But okay, we are actually going to see the Aqua Bullet and Inteleon attack. Like
with the Galarian Zigzagoon to fix that math. Beautiful. So we're going to get another knockout, trying to just stay ahead in the prize trade.
Yeah, I think the consideration is to potentially put the damage on something like the Regidrago or the Regice. The bench damage isn't that relevant, but it's mainly just utilizing a 1 prize Pokemon to force Pablo onto odd prize cards while keeping tempo in pace, and all this is going to work out. The energy is fulfilled with the training court, knockout, 20 Regidrago again. This is just to make sure that if for some reason the Regidrago doesn't pivot out, that the knockout is already lined up for Aqua Bullet. The damage isn't that relevant.
So now this is where Shady Dealings Inteleon, Aqua Bullet Inteleon is taking over for Origin Form Palkia. Going to try to get as much value out of this Pokemon as possible before it goes down. Pablo, meanwhile, needs to find a way to bring Regirock back, get that set up, get the Ancient Wisdom, and it's just, you know, the same old song and dance of the Regis all working together. I love how it just becomes like this awesome tag team where you can power up a Regi and then retreat it. That energy goes right back into the discard pile. Cynthia's Ambition now going to draw Pablo back up to 8 cards.
Wow, big time find there. Finds the Choice Belt. That will be relevant down the line as well.
And Pokestop.
Yeah, has
the
Pokestop as well.
Blow in the Stadium War.
Yeah, I think Pablo's just debating to use this now or to play the Ultra Ball from hand. The pros on one side is by playing the Ultra Ball, you guarantee that you won't discard the card off Pokestop. The other side of doing this is you can find a few cards that you're going to want as well, and cards that you can maybe discard off Ultra Ball. Those are 2 key pieces. I don't think Pablo's going to be like saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to get rid of these. Choice Belt and Scoop Up Net are solid cards that are needed on Pablo's end to keep this strategy rolling.
And there it is, the Ultra Ball, as you said, Ethan, going to discard a Registeel. And what is the other discard? We saw the boss's orders eyed up, but I think Pablo is still trying to hold on to that as much as possible.
Yeah, I think
so you can save it for that maybe final 2 prize KO.
Yeah, the boss might have to go. Everything else seems solid. You don't want to discard Professor's Research because you want to have draw. You don't want to discard Scoop Up Net because you're already down 2 at this point. Ends up getting rid of the boss's orders is the choice. When it comes to this list specifically, Pablo is playing a pretty interesting supporter count, is playing the 2 copies of Boss's Orders in combination with the 2 copies of Cynthia's Ambition. So having not as powerful draw, really relying on Marnie and Research to get him the distance where he needs to be.
Yeah, and especially with Dragon's Horde and Pokestop, you have a lot more just natural card draw built into the deck, ways to claw your way back against Roxanne. So overall, I do like that supporter line. Meanwhile, Regidrago is powered up, has access to that Giant Fangs attack, more than enough to take down Shady Dealings Inteleon.
Yes, this game is playing out very similar to the game number 1. In fact, Isaiah is essentially a turn ahead as things stand because of the way that the prizes have been put, utilizing the Shady Dealings Inteleon as well to attack. Pablo's going to respond to even things up at 3, but Isaiah's going to go down to 2 prize cards here. If Pablo does not take a knockout this turn, all Isaiah needs to do is power up a second attacker, and it's as simple as announcing Subspace Swell twice will knock out anything in play, and Isaiah will force a game 3. We're also under 10 minutes now, so doesn't look like 3 games will finish, but at minimum, Pablo is trying to either extend this game long enough to the point where it doesn't finish, which seems a little unlikely with how these players have been playing pace-wise, or Isaiah's trying to force a game 3 to at least squeak a match point out of this game.
Yeah, get a beautiful zoom in on Isaiah's hand. Has the Roxanne, is going to employ that just the right moment, and here it is.
There you go. Yeah, Roxanne is big. Not having access to Sobble right away is definitely a little bit of a miss. It's the sort of one of the risks you take when you play less copies of Sobble. You're only going into a 3-3 line anyway, so it makes sense, but you do still want extra copies sometimes. If you have to attack with your Inteleons, it means you're going to lose the Sobbles as well to evolve up into Drizziles.
But at the very least, if the Aqua Bullet does enough, you don't feel too bad about it going down because you've already gotten the power of the Shady Dealings. I think Isaiah Bradner has built this deck and recognizes that the key is simply Origin Form Palkia. You've got the Battle VIP Pass and the Irida. So the Sobble, while it is the backbone of the list, we know that at the end of the day, you can search through your deck through all the cards you want, but you still need attackers. And so Palkia is just offering that here in spades.
Yep. Things look pretty clear for Isaiah. Pretty much just saying, hey, if you have everything you need, if you have the ability to attack my Palkias and knock them out with Terra Spark every turn, I lose the game. I can't do anything to prevent that. I can't change the color at the bottom left of my card to be grass or something different, but this is all Isaiah can do. Say, I'm going to put you to as low of a hand size as possible.
I know, where's the water done sparse? Let's break the format.
Listen, we already, our Arceus is already too good because it has no, ability to have no weakness, right? We can't do that for every Pokemon.
But here we go, going to use the Pokestop.
Ooh, discards 2 Inteleon pieces. The Drizzile could be a little bit more consistency buff. The quick shooting is not as relevant, but
yeah, I mean, knockout.
Okay, so here we go. What are the 3 cards? Wow, look at this combination. Has the Capture Energy and Professor's Research in hand. This can find the last Reggie piece that is still in the deck if it's available. Pablo's just thinking, what piece do I have access to? And it looks like it is.
Drago in the prizes. I don't
know
No,
it's available. It's here. Reggie Drago is here, it seems. So there we go. And there's so little cards in deck, and there's still at least 2 to 3 Choice Belt in there. Has access to Pokestop and Professor's Research. Wow, look at things have unfolded for Pablo. An incredible draw there off that Roxanne.
Yeah, getting the 2 prize KO, like you talked about, Ethan, puts him ahead in the prize trade.
Oh, wow, and he can actually utilize the Regigigas again to use the ability of Dragon Tord. And I don't even know if this Research will get played. Sure, why not? Fill the hand up to 7 at this point. Only 3 cards left in deck. Wow, there's the Choice Belt. He found it.
The maximum power of the Reggies, thinning the deck down and making it so you have access to everything you need. There's the knockout. 2 prizes. Pablo goes down to 1 prize remaining in game number 2.
And so importantly there, he found the Choice Belt off the prizes. He needs that card the following turn to be able to knock out this Palkia. This is what it comes down to. Can Pablo get another Reggie Lucky powered up and able to attack with a Choice Belt? Otherwise, all Isaiah has to do is take this knockout here on the active, and from there, it just comes down to, does Pablo have it? Otherwise, I've got the damage output, I've got the way to move my Pokemon. It's on you, Pablo. That's all this comes down to at this point.
And, of course, Isaiah already used that Roxanne, and might be able to disrupt a little bit more, but it's just, at this point, Pablo just needs to show, hey, I've got the Choice Belt, let's go. But what a fantastic showing from the Reggie deck. It's been rumored and whispered about across the first day, and here in the second day we finally get to see it on stream. Isaiah's been playing his heart out as well. Despite the power of the Reggies, Isaiah's had a very consistent game plan, a very consistent setup every single time. You know exactly what you need to do for the matchup. Isaiah did everything that he was supposed to do when you are piloting a deck like this against a consistent lightning attacker, and it just comes down to the fact that Pablo's list is built to look and search and thin so drastically that you have those tools when you need them.
And this is the most frustrating part about playing against this deck, is it feels like you're playing against, it's like solitaire at this point. Like, it doesn't matter what you do, you just sit across your opponent, and if they have the nuts, if they have everything they need to just pop off and go crazy. You just sit there clueless, and you just are like, yeah, you're just like,
cut off one head, and then the Reggie just comes right back out of the discard anyway. So there's the cross switcher going to bring Regigigas into the active 4 retreat cost on this.
Wow, just has to pass. Is there a scoop up net? Is there a way to bring energies back? Wait, has he found the route?
Do we have the Ancient Wisdom and maybe a manual attachment? Is this guy stranded?
There's 3 energy.
Isaiah looked through the discard pile.
Okay, there's enough energy here. There's 2 cards left in deck, so he can utilize Ancient Wisdom this turn, put 3 energy onto the Regigigas. But the problem with putting 3 energy is that another thing gets stranded. So here's really the issue. How many energy do you put on? I think it's actually smart to just put a single energy onto this Regigigas. That way, if it stays there, you can put the last 3 on to retreat out. And at worst case scenario, what could potentially happen is if you throw all your energy preparing for next turn, Isaiah could just bring up another Pokemon, but no, Pablo's going to bring this up. And I don't know how many energy are left in the discard pile. If Isaiah has another way to bust this up, and this is what we're checking. How many energy are in here? 1, 2. There's only 2 energy in the discard pile now. These Pokemon on the bench have a 3 retreat cost. That could be Isaiah's only play. Use another Gusting card. Bring this Pokemon up on the bench that has nothing. Here's the Irida. If there's 2 Cross Switchers left in the deck, which I believe there are, I think Isaiah understands this is the only route that's possible. Gonna grab the Cross Switcher, the Drizzile as well, can find the second Cross Switcher piece. This is going to bring up either the Registeel or the Regirock. Wow, Isaiah has found this obscure line. Pablo might get punished for putting all the energy. It does say up to. You don't have to put 3 energy onto the Pokemon. And wow, I don't think Pablo had a way to move that. We're going to game 3.
Oh my God, got punished, got stranded. Didn't have the energies in the discard, and that was just going to result in a deck out.
Wow, that is a big time blunder there.
Isaiah playing towards that out. We saw how deeply.
Yeah, it says up to 3. I'm just double checking to make sure. Wow.
It says up to 3. You could have just done the Ancient Wisdom for 1 attachment as you speculated.
Yeah, and you see Pablo shaking his head. He can't believe he made a mistake like that on the big stage, shaking it off. You've got 1 minute 24 seconds. As long as players set up, this game isn't going to end. It's going to be a tie between both of these competitors.
That game went so long, but Pablo was in position, got that key 2 prize knockout, and was ahead on the trade. And we saw Isaiah look through that discard pile, took that deep look, understood the number of energies, and found the line.
I'm still shook by that. Wow, what an obscure line. Oh, Pablo's going to be thinking about that for a while, I'm sure.
Yeah, out of scoop up nets, no way to pivot. And now as we head into game 3, there's no way a single prize Reggie deck. We saw how long the first 2 games took. Here, game number 3, there's no way for it to conclude.
3 Reggie Pokemon in the prize cards. Pablo's going to be starting things off. Hand's actually not looking too solid, but does have the ability to get things going with an Energy Lotto. I think I saw the Speed Lightning Energy already in the hand, but wow, that looked like Pablo's game to lose at this point, and the only route possible. Such an obscure route, you don't see this a lot. Very rarely do you see deck out come into play between 2 attacking decks, but when your deck is now so much more aggressive than it was previous to the Pokemon Go expansion, because you get to discard an additional 3 cards every turn, you get left in a position where you're just naturally discarding so many energy. It's not a bad thing, you can constantly bring them back, but when you're constantly bouncing around attackers and not discarding the energy via retreating, or just your Pokemon getting knocked out, it can lead to rare situations like that. That's one that I at least can say I've never seen before.
Pablo was closing in on a 2-0 here in Swiss Round 5 at the World Championships. I don't think he can be blamed for just getting a little bit too overzealous there, a little bit excited, and just one missed sequence, one, moment of closing your eyes, daydreaming, and you get punished for it. Heavy Ball now coming through to check the prizes, trying to find the Reggie setup. Even though we don't have any more time left in the round, Pablo and Isaiah are going to be able to quickly get their setups up and running.
So time should have been called at this point. That will mean Pablo is turn 0. There is still technically a way that Pablo can win this game, but if Isaiah just fills the bench with Pokemon, then there's no way either of this can complete. So this is the position we're at. There's the attachment to pass. I already see the Manaphy in hand, so the Manaphy could just come down. There's a quick ball as well. Yeah, it's just going to find another Pokemon. Both these players understand this game is not finishing. Isaiah, by the skin of his teeth, pulling a match point out of this match. Both players going to go to 3-0-2. Not out by any means, but if they want to make top 8, top 16, they've got to win the rest of their matches, and that's going to be a hard feat to do.
Yeah, Pablo was so disappointed there to sign that slip, but at this level of competition, you cannot let up. You cannot give your opponent any means to manipulate the game when you're that far ahead, when you are closing in on the victory. But Isaiah Bradner finds the way, gets that one more point, and maybe that extra point will be the difference between making that top cut.
Oh, absolutely. You see how frustrated he is from that play. He'll be thinking about that for a while. And it's just when the pressure gets to you, when you feel so comfortable like a game is won, you can slip up and sort of let your foot off the gas a little bit and say, yeah, I put the 3 on here. I've got 2 energy left in my discard pile. I'm in more than a comfortable enough spot to close this game out, do what you need to do. But that really just shows the class of Isaiah as well, of seeing that, look, I know that I'm not going to be able to win this game by taking knockouts, but I can imagine your deck list probably looks something like this with your energy counts. I'm going to take a gamble and say, you know what? Here's my play. I'm going to try to bring up one of your Reggie Pokemon on the bench that are hefty. These are big Pokemon. These are Pokemon that are pretty hard to move. So once you get into that position, it just comes down to the fact that Pablo just didn't quite see that line. He's going to be well aware of this for the last game. Your mental is going to be so key going into this. After a game like that, you can't let yourself get down. You're still in an excellent spot. Undefeated, 3-0-2. All you've got to do is win 3 in a row. It sounds like a lot. Some people could say it's a little bit. It's going to be difficult at the World Championship stage, but mindset is a big thing. Pokemon isn't all just skill. It's about keeping your head in the game, keeping yourself focused. And Isaiah as well, after a stressful game, maybe having a little bit more confidence that, hey, even if things don't go my way necessarily, I can find the routes to pull it out. Maybe I got to do that in my next couple of matches. That's going to be round 5 concluding. Wow, what a match.
Yeah, the players are just going to keep their mental sharp, and they're going to keep moving forward. Pablo's already demonstrated in that cool video that we saw before the set started. He's a very resilient player, and honestly, the juxtaposition of these 2 players smiling and laughing at the table at first, and then an exhausting best of 3 being played all the way down to the wire, to just see that look on his face. That is, I think, the perfect encapsulation of the highs and lows of the Pokemon card game. And now here at the World Championships, that's the conclusion of Swiss Round 5, and the players still have many more rounds to play, so many more fierce battles to overcome.
Yeah, I'm just at a loss for words at this point. This is an intense match. I know I need a break. I'm sure you do too. Viewers at home, go take yourselves a break. We're going to be back very shortly. We've got more action. Round 6 of Swiss here at the Pokemon TCG World Championships. Don't go anywhere.
Thanks for watching, trainers. My name is Ross Gilbert, and I'd like to talk about the best attacking Pokemon from the recent Brilliant Stars expansion. It's Arceus V-Star. We need to start with Arceus V, however, as its Trinity Charge attack for just 2 colorless energy allows you to search your deck for 3 basic energy and attach them to your Pokemon V, and that does include Pokemon V Max and Pokemon V Star, in any way that you like. When you pair this with the new Double Turbo Energy card that can provide 2 colorless energy and a single attachment, you have an engine that can be used to speed up any Pokemon V deck. You can even accelerate energy with Arceus V-Star's Trinity Nova attack, and although you will need a 3rd energy, you'll also deal 200 damage, which is enough to get a lot of key KOs on Pokemon in the format right now. Being a V-Star Pokemon means you only give up 2 prizes when KO'd, rather than Pokemon V Maxes, which give up 3 prizes, but it also gives you access to your new once-per-game V-Star power. The phenomenal Starbirth ability might be the only V-Star power you can use per game, but it lets you search your deck for any 2 cards. Whether that's Boss's Orders to take a key KO, or just the final pieces to set up your strategy, it's an ability that can turn the tide of the game, even though it is single use. Arceus V-Star can make almost any Pokemon V better, but one of the best partners right now is Duraludon V Max. Duraludon's Skyscraper ability prevents all damage done to it from all Pokemon with any special energy attached. So a deck like Mew V Max has to either forego using Fusion Strike energy, which takes away a lot of their speed, or not be able to deal any damage. Against decks that don't play basic energy, this ability could just win the game right away. Duraludon VMAX also has a great attack in G-Max Pulverization, which deals 220 damage and isn't affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. This means that attacks like Latias's Dyna Barrier, which should prevent damage from Pokemon VMAX, won't work, giving you a perfect answer to many of the most annoying attacks and abilities in the game. Having 330 HP and no weakness also makes Duraludon VMAX extremely difficult to knock out, and means that healing cards like Hyper Potion and Crystal Cave become super effective. Arceus V-Star has burst onto the Pokemon TCG scene, and whether the best partner is Duraludon or one of many other Pokemon V, it's fair to say that the combination of fantastic energy acceleration and the ability to search for any cards is going to lead to a lot of wins. Keep watching the Pokemon TCG International Championships to see if this deck can continue its already impressive record.
Mañana, bye.